Ready. Testing. I would like to call to order the regular City Council meeting. The time is now 6:33 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa,
Present.
Councilmember LaPlante,
Present.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez,
Present.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Present. I would now like to have Councilmember Frometa lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's an honor. Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you to give you thanks for bringing us together once again. We thank you for the blessings you bestow upon our families, our city. And Lord, we thank you for our fire and police departments. Thank you for the work they do to keep our community and our residents safe. And as we come together as a council and as a body of government, we pray that we would have the wisdom to make sound decisions for our residents. We pray for unity and we pray for a calm evening tonight. In your name we pray. Amen.
Would now like to invite up our Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I was just curious, at what point do I get to start charging? But no. Please put your right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And before we proceed to City Council member announcements and requests for future agenda items, I'm going to proceed down to do a special presentation. So this evening, we have a special presentation. We have a Downey resident who is celebrating his 100th birthday. And it's really with great pleasure to celebrate his birthday. So I'm also going to say it in Spanish because he only speaks Spanish. Hoy, esta noche, tengo el gran orgullo de introducir a una persona y para felicitarle. Feliz cumpleaños. Este sábado, el 27 de agosto, él va a cumplir 100 años. Así es que estamos aquí para felicitarle en sus feliz cumpleaños. A little bit about Mr. Jose Guzman, who is celebrating his 100th birthday. Jose Guzman Torres was born on August 27th, 1922, in Zapotlán, El Grande, now known as Ciudad Guzmán, in the state of Jalisco, Mexico. His parents were Macario Guzmán, a farmer, and Inés Torres, a housewife. From the tender age of 4 years old, he would rise before sunrise and farm with his father. When his father passed away, Mr. Guzman had to work to support his mother and 9 siblings. Mr. Guzman has a deep appreciation for the land and everything he plants and produces fruit. On October 1946, he married Erlinda Vargas. They had 8 children: Jose Luis, Blanca, Miguel, Marta, Francisco, Lourdes, Jorge, and Laura. To support his family, he worked as a farmer, a trader, and made the best carnitas and chicharrones in the city. In 1955, he crossed the border to become one of the first braceros and established his family in the USA in 1977. Interesting enough, my grandfather actually also came through the Bracero program in the 1950s, and he established his home in Santa Barbara. He moved to Downey in 1987, where he has lived happily with his family, including 13 grandchildren, 16 great-grandchildren, and one more on the way. At his almost 100th birthday, Mr. Guzman still enjoys working the land and harvests many vegetables and flowers. So I would like for you to all, I don't know if you could stand, but I would like for you all to help me in wishing him happy birthday. Let's give him a round of applause. Feliz cumpleaños, señor Guzmán. Felicidades.
Good afternoon. My name is Marta Guzman, and Jose Guzman is my father. We want to thank you, the city, for this recognition, and we're really proud of him, and we love him to death. So we're celebrating a very special day for him, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much to all.
Can we take a brief minute or two recess while they leave, because I don't think they're gonna wanna hear the whole meeting.
Yes, we're going to go ahead and take a 2-minute recess. Thank you.
Are we in a
I can get entered.
We will now reconvene our city council meeting. And the next item on our agenda is city council member announcements, requests for future agenda items, and conference meeting reports. This time around, I will start off on my far right with Councilmember LaPlante.
Thank you. I'm pleased to report that I represented the council at the start of Rocket Fever event on Saturday, August 13th. I was pleased to thank Assemblymember Cristina Garcia for her efforts to help Downey over the years, and particularly the millions of dollars in state funding she obtained for the Downey Space Museum expansion. I was also pleased to attend the Downey Pride event the same day and participate in honoring Congresswoman Lucille Roy Ball Allard for her 30 years of service in Congress by having her crowned as Downey Pride Queen 2022. The overall event was very well organized and very well attended by members of our local community. After 3 months of service on this council, I want to make a few suggestions as to how we can improve our meetings to better serve the citizens of Downey. First, I think it's vital that the report and update from the city manager be moved from the end of the meeting to this council member comments section of the meeting to be council member and city manager comments. This would allow the city manager to update the city council and the citizens on items such as the repair of Fire Station 4, the questions at the last meeting regarding Tacos Con Goya, and questions about the homeless camps in the East Riverbed and the like. The council and the public deserve to hear these updates early in the meeting and not at the end. It might even preempt some public comments if they've heard the answer to their question. Second, I believe we all need to manage our reports and presentations better at the start of these meetings. Between our comments, the Celico presentation, which was valuable and needed, and awards, it took an hour before we got to the public comments section last time. Unfortunately, this has become the norm and not the exception. I would urge we all limit our comments as best we can, knowing that sometimes we'll go a little long and other times some of us will just go, thank you, I did the same stuff, and move right along. Finally, I think it's all important that everybody remember that the purpose of city council meetings is for the council to conduct the public's business in public and hear recommendations from staff and discuss and decide on courses of action. I know that the 30-minute limit on public comment can't be used to disallow some people to speak and others to not. However, if the mayor sees at the start of public comment that we have more than 7 or 8 people, I would urge her to cut the speaking time to 3 or 2 or even 1 minute if we have a huge line. We need to hear everyone, but last meeting it took us an hour and a half to hear 20 people. Yep, I was keeping track. Unfortunately, many of the comments were either just repetition of previous comments, or even more unfortunately, random discourses on topics that had little or nothing to do with the city of Downey, or vague accusations that we're all a bunch of corrupt crooks up here. We need to focus our council meetings on presentations from our staff, their recommendations, our discussion, and then action by the city council on matters of city business. City council meetings are not designed to be a twice-monthly presentation of certificates and then listening to obscene comments, invective, and background noise that then winds up drowning out the actual concerns from residents of the community, such as that one lady who came to talk about a crosswalk and we barely could hear what she was talking about because of all the background noise in the meeting. Unfortunately, with the abuse of our public comments section, it's turned parts of these meetings, sorry, 8th grade teacher reference here, into the Krusty the Clown show from The Simpsons. And we're featuring both Sideshow Mel and Sideshow Bob. We've had to change our written public comments section to have copies provided to members of the council and made available in the chamber instead of having it read into the meeting proceedings to avoid our staff having to read obscenity after obscenity. That was simply unacceptable. There are many important issues to discuss in the next 16 months through 2023, such as a restructuring of our transit system to focus more on door-to-door transportation, repurposing some of that money to spend on street repairs, comprehensive plan for arts and culture, the unused building at Furman Park that's on lease to, unfortunately, the now defunct YMCA, the State Gallery, code enforcement priorities, a downtown-specific plan, rent control, rent stabilization issues, healthcare minimum wage issues, sister city issues, sidewalk vendor issues, RV overnight parking, and a list that could go on forever. These meetings need a reset and a refocus onto what the public's business is and not merely to listen to people coming to complain or to put up their fingers or to put their thumbs down. Yes, Sideshow Bob and Sideshow Mel. Thank you, and yes, I did this in 4 minutes.
Thank you, Councilmember LaPlante. Next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Hello, good evening, everyone. First, I wanted to invite the community to the organization Undocu Love. They're having an event on Thursday, September 1st to raise funds for our undocumented community. And this is going to happen on 7404 Florence Avenue, Downey, California, 90240. Again, this is going to be on Thursday, September 1st, all day. Second item is that I wanted to congratulate our neighbors in Bell Gardens. Last night in Bell Gardens, City Council passed a rent stabilization ordinance with additional protections for tenants. I know that this is a big help for families, and I want to request an item for the next meeting. I would like our staff to bring forward the ordinance from Bell Gardens and in other cities that have complied with the rent control. We need our residents to hear about what Bell Gardens has done and decide how we are going to move forward to help tenants in Downey. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Next up, we have Councilmember Trujillo.
Good evening. I had the pleasure to attend the Chamber of Commerce Mixer, really well attended. Thank you to the Chamber. We hosted the Presidente Municipal de Temaxtlan, Jalisco, came to visit. They're very much interested in building a sister city connection, so I referred them to the sister city, but we did give them a tour. School has started. Please remember that schools usually get out somewhere between 2:45 and 3:15. If you could avoid the areas in front of our schools, I think that would help ease traffic congestion so parents could pick up their kids safely. Also had the privilege to attend the Business Watch meeting. Very good information on preventing fraud. I was told that the video is available on the Downey Police Department website. Look at it for Business Watch, and they put up recordings of other seminars as well. I have noticed that the 710 freeway has been cleaned, bordering Downey, so thank you to the city staff. If you had anything to do with that, please remind them that we have the 105 freeway. I'm very concerned about the 105 freeway. There was that recent fire. I don't know what it was. I heard it was a homeless encampment. I drove by the 105 freeway today. The exits and the entrances are still filthy, and along the corridors, there's not sufficient landscaping. If we can have Public Works pay some attention to the 105 freeway in terms of our jurisdiction, what's along our streets, please. And a lighting survey is going out. As you know, one of our priorities is public safety, and with that comes lighting. If you or any area of Downey that you may know of, or if your area you believe is in need of lighting, now is an opportunity for you to come forward and bring this area to your attention. Please look at the Downey website or our social media platforms for that information. And last but not least, I want to encourage our residents to please download, if you've not already, the City of Downey app. While I appreciate that many residents will call us, sometimes if you're reporting a traffic issue, well, I'm going to call the police department. You can cut out the middle person. If you download the City of Downey app, there's an other feature for service request. So anything you want to bring to our attention, please try to use that Downey app, but still, we will take your phone calls and your emails and address the issues. But please look up the City of Downey app and encourage everyone in your family to download. It's very easy to report things and ask for service requests. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And next, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all here. And for those of you watching us via YouTube or our channel, our Zoom, thank you for watching us. I say engaged communities are strong communities, and here we are, Downey. It's a pleasure to report the weekend of August 12th. I was out of town. I attended the Independent Cities Association seminar in San Diego, and among the sessions I attended one on SB 9 and the impact in how this bill really interferes with local governance. We really need to look at, there are actually lawsuits going on, and the community's impact in diminishing the local control of municipalities. Also, there was a session on pension plans, looking at unfunded liabilities, and thankfully to our amazing Director of Finance here, and during my mayoral year last year, we were able to look at that. That is not always the most sexiest topic, but we looked at our funded liabilities pensions, and we were able to save our city $55 million over the next 20 years. And we went from a 64% to an 85% rate. And again, that was really the perfect storm because of COVID. Interest rates were significantly lower. And so again, while other cities are now grappling with this unfunded liabilities, Downey once again was ahead of the curve on that. It was always a pleasure to go to these seminars and get together with other elected officials from other cities. And this one, independent cities, these cities have their own police and fire departments. So it's always a good opportunity to come together and engage with them. I also had the pleasure of attending the Business Watch with my council colleagues. And the next Business Watch meeting, and this is really important, sadly, we only had a couple of business owners in the council chambers. The meetings are held quarterly at 9 a.m. right here in the council chambers. And we talk a lot about crime and the smash and grabs. And in fact, I was just shopping at our local neighborhood Ralph's the other day, probably about 7 o'clock in the evening, when a couple of individuals just came in and grabbed all kinds of stuff and just walked out. And so again, we are seeing this. This is not just specific to Downey. This is specific. This actually is happening up and down Los Angeles County, and it's worrisome, and understandably so. We have our police department that is getting calls for all sorts of things, from speed racing enforcement to other types of crimes, and yet we have these crimes going on. Those of you that perhaps follow social media pages, there was some youngsters at the local Ralph's grabbing all kinds of liquor yesterday afternoon as well and walking right out. And so why am I mentioning this? Well, because as we present these Business Watch seminars, it is important for our business community to come together. We always say, how come the city or how come the police is not doing much about it? Well, we need to bring, yes, greater awareness, but we need to work together and work collaboratively. So the next Business Watch meeting will be November 16th at 9 a.m. Now, what I would like the staff to do, if this time is not convenient for our business community, and again, our Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert is here. If this is a time that is not agreeable with most of our business community, then we really want to rethink the timing of this, because we want these to be effective and we want people to engage with us. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is again, we are seeing that escalation, and I know that businesses, grocery stores around us are getting incredibly and increasingly frustrated with individuals walking out with merchandise with completely no sense of complete disregard of the law. And perhaps this is another conversation for another time, but I think we really need to do something more as a community. I've also gotten some calls from local businesses surrounding our schools, where our youngsters go after school to eat, perhaps, and our youngsters engage in behavior that is unacceptable and disrespectful to to the businesses that the people that are serving them. And so once again, these are things that we are seeing more now than before in this community. And I think that as people are watching and as this is being recorded, I really want to exhort our parents. This is a community, and we are a community that needs to move forward together, and we need to educate our youngsters. And I would like to also call out to those business owners and those people working fast food. If there are youngsters that are unruly and that are not behaving, you have every right to not serve them and refuse service to them, because we cannot have a community that is falling apart with disrespect and crime in that fashion. A few items that I would like to invite our community once again. If we care about Downey, we need to be engaged. There is Coffee with a Cop at Starbucks tomorrow at 7954 Imperial Highway, tomorrow, Wednesday, August 24th at 6 p.m. There's also CERT training graduation at Golden Park. This is the Community Emergency Response Teams, and that is scheduled for Sunday, the 28th at 4:30. Downey is home to over 240 neighborhood watch meetings, and the next one is coming up on August 30th at 6 p.m. If you are interested in having a neighborhood watch group in your neighborhood, please contact our police department and you will be referred to somebody there that handles that. And last but not least, we have been having a shortage of blood across our country, and the city of Downey is hosting a blood drive at our Barbara J. Riley Community Center. This will be held on August 31st. That is a week from tomorrow, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There is appointments are required. Please go ahead and donate blood so we can save a life. Madam Mayor, thank you for the time. This concludes my comments.
Thank you very much. And
Let me just add, I work with the Red Cross for our blood drives for our church. They will be happy to accept walk-ins. If you want to walk into the Barbara J. Riley Center to donate blood that day, they will accommodate you. There is a dire need.
And Don, I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Thank you, your comments from earlier.
thank you. And regarding the business watch meetings, we've actually tried 12 p.m., we've tried morning. So maybe we just need to talk to our executive director over at the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe he can also give us some suggestions, even though he's turning around. Yes, we're talking to you, Michael. So maybe we can look into like other times, other days, maybe doing it at a business to get the business community involved, so we can have a.
For the next meeting that we can survey this out and see what we can do about it.
All right, we can talk about it later.
Madam Mayor,
Thank you. Yes.
may I recognize the president of our Rose Float Association, Jeremy Clifton's in the back, which reminds me.
I see him now.
Pain and Sip, right? This Friday, 6 p.m. at the Rose Float headquarters. Pain and Sip fundraiser. It'll be a fun event this Friday, 6 o'clock. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for mentioning that. Just want to start off by recognizing and thanking you all for being in attendance to our council meetings and for being involved and engaged with our council meetings. I do want to acknowledge Alfred Tovar, who is a Public Works Committee member. Thank you for being here. And I've already picked on him enough, but we have our Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Michael Calvert, is also in attendance. I wanted to mention some events, or actually an event I attended last week. Last week I was at the ILG board meeting. ILG stands for Institute for Local Government. We had our board retreat. It's ILG, many people don't know about it, aren't aware of it, but we are an affiliate of the League of California Cities. For us, it's important to provide trainings to elected officials. We also do trainings for planning commissioners, and we also do public engagement opportunities. We work with local cities, with counties, and with special districts. So the whole purpose of our board retreat is just trying to get out there the awareness to other elected officials about what ILG is. A lot of our meetings, our trainings have been virtual because of the pandemic, but hopefully we're looking into doing other things to get the name of ILG out there, which unfortunately even other elected officials aren't aware of ILG. So that's where I was at last week up in Sacramento. And like Councilmember Fermetta mentioned, we do have a Coffee with the Cop event. This will be at the Starbucks off of Imperial Highway and Paramount Boulevard. So if you have an opportunity, please stop by, enjoy some coffee, enjoy some good conversations with our local police officers. They love their community, they love their city, and they love being involved and engaged with our Downey residents. So please come out and visit them. Also, I wanted to mention a Summer Golden Music and Movie over at Golden Park this Friday, where we are partnered up with the Assemblywoman Cristina Garcia. We will be showing the movie Encanto, and there will be activities and music, and of course the movie. It all starts around 6 p.m., so please join us over at Golden Park. And I also wanted to mention our International Food Festival is back. It will be in the downtown Downey area. Come on over, enjoy some great food, some fun activities for the kids. We'll have music, and this will be from 4 to 10 p.m. on September 10th. And that concludes my comments, and I also wanted to thank Councilmember LaPlante for your comments at the beginning of the council meeting. Thank you. Okay, we will now proceed on over to the one public hearing this evening. Resolutions adopting the city's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. One, adopt resolution number 22, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey adopting the City of Downey's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. And number 2, adopt resolution number 22- a resolution of the City Council of the City of Downey adopting the City of Downey's 2020 Water Shortage Contingency Plan. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 7:05 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do we have proof of publication?
We do, Mayor.
Do we have a motion and a second to receive and file the publication? Is there a second? Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
There is. Our Deputy Director of Public Works Utilities Manager, Dan Mueller, is approaching the podium right now. Thank you, Dan.
Mayor, members of City Council, the items before you tonight are 2 items, the Urban Water Management Plan update as well as the Water Shortage Contingency Plan update. The Urban Water Management Planning document is required to be updated every 5 years in accordance with the Urban Water Management Planning Act. And that also includes a Water Shortage Contingency Plan, which is actually a standalone document, but an element and a chapter within the actual Urban Water Management Plan. The purpose of the Urban Water Management Plan is essentially to lay out in 5-year increments in a 20-year period a comparison of water supplies available to meet water demands over that period of time. And in order to properly look at water demands over a projection of 20 years, the city's consultant looked at data from various agencies related to population, housing trends, land use, and that included Southern California Association of Governments, as well as the City Planning Department, as well as U.S. Census Bureau and Department of Finance population data, which were used in coordination with our consultant to project water use demands into the future. Also included was a review of recycled water demands, both existing and projections out, again, 20 years and 5-year increments. Over the past, the city has been creative in how it's allowed for expansion of recycled water infrastructure on major arterials within the city, both through grant funds as well as through development projects. It's allowed the city to expand it on many major arterials, including Lakewood Boulevard, Firestone Boulevard, Stewart and Gray Road, Bellflower Boulevard, as well as association with developments at Kaiser along Steve Horn Way and also the promenade on Apollo Way. As a result of that, the city is been able to require developments that are within the vicinity of this infrastructure to expand the recycled water use, to use it for landscape irrigation, and in some cases, when allowed by LA County Department of Public Health, to also use it for the purpose of dual plumbing for toilets and urinals. We're going to continue to try to expand both the extension of the recycled water main infrastructure and also require the use of it into the future. We see it as a great opportunity to reduce potable water demands and also restore reliance on local supplies such as recycled water, which are available through both Central Basin Municipal Water District and the LA County Sanitation Districts. Another element of the Urban Water Management Plan is a required review of water conservation activities. Of course, that would include recycled water use, as well as water use restrictions and prohibitions that we have in our municipal code. But more importantly, one of the elements of this update on the Urban Water Management Plan was a review of the 2009 Water Conservation Act, which essentially required that water agencies reduce their per capita water use 20% by the year 2020. And so that required our consultant to, in the past time that we did our water management plan, the previous document, to actually develop a 2020 target that we needed to meet. And that target was 137 gallons per capita per day. And we're happy to report that we actually met and exceeded that 20% reduction by hitting 110 gallons per capita per day by 2020. So that is explained further in the water management plan document. Also included in the document is a review, again, a required review of projects and programs that the city implements in order to affect supplies, and that's in a number of different elements. Essentially, the city has a program of taking offline groundwater wells through its rehabilitation program that are inefficient and restoring those efficiencies by replacing pumps, motors, also doing chemical cleaning, mechanical cleaning, and then bringing those wells back online to make sure that we're able to meet the city's demands efficiently. We also have a program whereby every fiscal year we replace old service lines, old galvanized service lines that are prone to leaking. We install new radio read meters at those locations, and we look for opportunities to abandon undersized and redundant water mains that are on the same street, where we're able to transfer the services over to the larger mains, increasing flow and pressure for the residents and businesses within the community, and also making sure that we're able to get that water from the wells to the customers that need them. Additionally, we also have plans to install 2 new groundwater wells. It's been a long process of getting that permitted through the state to start that construction, but our anticipation is to install 2 new groundwater wells over the next several years, which we would then use and rely on and begin to rely less on some of the older wells that we have within our system so that we can eventually retire those wells. And then lastly is, well, 2 items actually. One is looking at future water quality regulations as a result of the public health goal that was developed for polyfluorinated compounds by Cal EPA. We anticipate that both public health goals for PFOA and PFOS to be adopted in the next several years, and that is the precursor to them actually proposing a maximum contaminant level or water quality standard for those 2 elements. So we're taking the proactive approach of designing 2 groundwater well treatment systems and also analyzing with the consultant how we would implement treatment at all of the city's wells throughout the city. We've got also our ARPA money that we're already using for that purpose. We also have a Cal EPA grant, and we've also teamed up with WRD to go after additional grants. And we're looking at other ways within our JPAs that we could team up with other agencies to go after funding to try to minimize impacts to the public that way. And then lastly, within the actual groundwater basin, we're allowed the ability to manage our water rights, essentially. In years where we have excess water rights and our demands are lower, we're able to lease those water rights out by taking in funds to fund projects, and vice versa. If in the future our demands were to exceed our water rights, we'd be able to actually take water in and lease water in. And we also store water in times of excess for groundwater storage purposes so that we can also extract that water at a later time. Lastly, one of the major elements of the Urban Water Management Plan is the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And that plan is a 6-stage plan that basically goes in 10% increments. and describes city actions that would be taken in the event that we would have a water supply shortage starting at a 10% level all the way up to a 60% level. I think levels of shortages in the 40, 50, 60% levels, the probability would be highly unlikely. However, all urban water suppliers are required to have a plan in place as to what they would do in the event that something like that would happen. And obviously, there's a number of different elements and actions that would be taken in that case, starting with increasing waterways patrols to make sure that customers within the city are complying with the actual water quality standards, restrictions, and prohibitions that we have in place through issuance of non-compliance notices. It would also be increasing our public information campaign. It would be targeting high water users within the community to see what we can do to team up and try to increase the efficiency of the on-site use, as well as going after high water users that are capable of retrofitting to recycle water to minimize demands on the potable water system. We also looked at reduction of outdoor irrigation in terms of number of days per week that could be implemented to reduce usage in the future. Essentially, that's a summary of the elements of both Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. The Urban Water Management Planning Act requires that we bring the documents to the governing body for adoption. Once adopted, the two documents will be filed with the State Department of Water Resources within 30 days and then made available on the city's website, as well as the adjacent water agencies and the county as well. And that's a summary of the two documents, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you for the presentation. I think the reports are in our packets, but for purposes of transparency and information for our public, I do have a couple of questions. And these are, when we take the wells offline, for how long do we take them offline? And what is the length for refurbishment?
So that it does depend on the number of elements that we're going to bid out when we do those projects, but the process is typically we have Southern California Edison come out and do pump tests with city staff. We then identify the actual wells that are the lowest efficiency and highest producing, and then take those offline. By doing that, then we prepare the bid documents, send it out, bid it. Of course, that's a process in itself. But they could be out for anywhere from 4 to 5 months typically.
Okay. And what is the cost for each well? You mentioned, we'll be adopting.
We've done rehabilitations in the neighborhood of $50,000 all the way up to $150,000 or more in some cases.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Sure.
presentation.
I did have a question. I noticed that I want to make sure this is correct that I'm reading. We're going to be constructing 2 new groundwater wells?
That's the plan, yes. We've got 20 wells now, but a number of them are older, so we anticipate that over the next 10 years, they're going to see the end of their useful life. So we'd like to get those wells in, because that's a process that takes several years from construction to actually getting it activated through the state.
Oh, okay. And do we have a location for those wells?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, thank you for a very thorough presentation.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
I will now open the item for public comment. City Clerk Duarte, have you received any written correspondence to be incorporated into the record?
We did not, Mayor.
Members of the public wishing to address the City Council regarding the public hearing item only, may now come forward and form a line. I remind speakers that you have 3 minutes to address the council on this item.
Lee Squire, Downey resident, retired Brea City Finance Department employee, 31 years. First, I would like to say is, for God's sakes, we need to stop the hatred towards our local policing. My questions are, I want to read the following. Water supply and demand. The city uses groundwater from Central Basin to meet 100% of its potable water demands and intends to utilize this water as a primary source of drinking water in the future. The city owns water rights to pump 16,554 acre-feet of groundwater each year. Additional groundwater rates can either be leased or purchased as needed. My question that I have is so if you're saying you get 100% of your potable water from the Central Basin is how I'm reading this. So if you've got water wells, then I guess the question of it is, So central basin providing water basically to refill the aquifers. So you're pumping water being literally provided by central basin is what I'd like to clarify. Second, when they talk about recycled water, also known as what we call the purple pipes, this indicates that the city has constructed recycled water facilities. In government ease, facilities can either be water lines or they can actually be facilities such as a treatment facility. This appears to only be, I'm assuming, water lines that provide this city with recycled water. Finally, I would like to say is if we start reducing water, then that's going to lower your water revenue. So then is that going to work like reverse inflation is? So the less we use, the more we're going to start paying for it. Because this city, like all cities, including Brea, have a fixed limit on your level of expenditures that you need to provide services to. I just want to know if the more we lower our water use, when eventually are you going to come and start raising our water rates? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm back again just to see where the ordinance is for the.
This is only
drone.
about the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
We'll have another opportunity.
Madam Mayor, agendas are in the back, if he wishes to. He may not know there's agendas in the back.
Yeah, I think he just didn't know when it was time for him to speak.
Good evening. Water. Wow, what an issue. We can go on all night about that. The question is, can we trust you to handle our water and efficiently? That is the issue. And specifically with relations that we've had with other boards and situations where the water district had a whistleblower, and I think her name was Vasquez, the Vasquez lady that would come here periodically. And she was a whistleblower, and she was being investigated from a gentleman, John Ascui, used to sit right over here. He hired an outside law firm to investigate her while she was an elected official on that water board. And the court ruled in her favor that she can say anything she wants for her First Amendment right. Now, why hasn't that decision been brought publicly here in this council to let the residents know what happened there? And where is John Ascui? We don't know where he's at. Who did he hire to investigate this Vasquez lady? Oh, I know, but I'm not going to say it tonight. Not yet, anyway. But it's somebody sitting here. It's the same firm. And then they sent a cease and desist letter to her to shut her up, and she won. She can say anything she wants. And it's ironic that we have District 2 tonight threatening to shut down all free speech activity in this council chamber here. Absolutely phenomenal. But I think, Mayor, maybe he can appeal to you like you did in 2019 when you wanted to form an ad hoc committee to shut down public protesting and violate the First Amendment rights of certain people. Now, I don't agree with them, but they can come down here to this podium and lay their case on it, and we can talk about it. But you don't have to go around secretly trying to run it by Ms. Garcia, the then city attorney, and try to shut people up. It's not going to work. And I'm out of time.
Thank you.
Okay, so building off of those great comments from the last speaker, water in this city, we in the public have been talking about it, and we've been alarmed at what's been happening. We started really speaking out It's been a while. And you people did indeed attempt to shut us down. I now see the face of D. Mueller, the employee who got up here and gave you that presentation. So I don't believe anything he said, because I can see right here that he, along with your former city attorney, spent some time to get this attorney from Orange County to get me and Ms. Vasquez to shut up and stop talking about the water. Yes, I did shoot some videos right at well 16 right over there in District 4. And guess what? The well 16 numbers, as well as all the other ones around it, do show very high levels of PFAS and PFOA. Toxic chemicals. Very harmful for human health. And the response of the mayor and the mayor pro tem at the time, Ms. Frometa, the response, instead of actually addressing the issue, you wasted $3,885 to pay this Orange County attorney, who this attorney is a fraud. She sends multiple, she's not doing it anymore, but she is sending, she has sent a lot of concerned residents these letters because city attorneys are too cowardly to actually do it, because guess what? It's wrong. You shouldn't be spending the public dollar on silencing the citizens, especially on something so important as water. Hello, we're talking about a real issue that's of very real importance. So that's why it's actually really disconcerting that why were there not more questions? We've been talking about this for so long. Why don't you actually pay attention or even do your own research? If you don't believe what we're saying, at least go do your own research on the water. Aren't you all property owners? You went to Naleo and told people that, oh, we care about water because we have property. That's what Mr. Trujillo specifically said. He said that he cares more about the water in Downey because he has the most property of the council members. Okay, well, let's see it. Let's see a cleanup of the water, because we're tired of these lies. Like, I'm pretty sure what that person was saying were lies. We need action on the water. We need the water to be cleaned. We need it to be completely affordable. And we need you people to stop shutting down our First Amendment on this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
My name is Juan Martinez, and I am running for the 4th District City Council. But today I want to talk about how I don't have faith in the staff members who are participating in our water reports. The gentleman that spoke about the water issues was asked clearly, how long are these wells shut down for? The gentleman did not provide any information. Rather, he vaguely talked about some of the issues that might affect the well. Let it be clear, what these wells are experiencing are PFOA and PFOS. These are contaminants that we have been reporting for years. For years, people have had chemicals in their water when they're taking showers, when they're drinking it, when it's coming out of their faucet. Some of you have been drinking it, cooking your food, and when you take showers with it, that is contaminated water that is blended. This council knew about this and refused to do anything about it. In fact, when individuals, activists who were working with water agencies and working with people who are in the front lines of this contamination, they try to shut them down. They try to shut them down with attorneys, with these frivolous lawsuits that failed in court and were defeated. And now they want to come up here and say that they're taking a proactive approach. Proactive approach would have been to recognize the contamination years ago and to have started working about it. You didn't do that. The council member of the 4th District, who was mayor at that time, even told people that not only was it not contaminated, she went above and beyond to announce that in the Downey Patriot. Why were you lying to the community? It is disgusting to see that. It is disgusting to see that staff members who are giving reports on our water are also giving consultation against other elected members who represent us in water. Sending letters from Scarborough, that have issues that some might consider forgery, lacking signatures, having dates that are not matching. This is the type of criminality and unprofessionalism that's not vague, like the second district, the council member mentioned. These are not vague accusations. These are on public record for the public to see. This city council knew about the contamination of the water, mainly the elected members who have been here for years, and they said nothing. In fact, they try to cover it up. That's your family. That's your children. That's your food that has PFOA and PFAS.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I would like Delfino. I think these, again, we are in the middle of public comment, but before we go any further, I think it's important to clarify and make sure the public understands that these chemicals have been around since the 1940s, and they are in thousands of solvents and oils and all kinds of products we use. And I think it's important for the community to understand where we are with PFAS and PFAS and how legislature has changed, how communities address this, and how as a city we have been looking at this and addressing these issues. But before we go any further,
Let's just go ahead and have
I just want
that way we can at least close public comment.
We'll close public
Or else
comment,
there's gonna be
but
a
I
lot of
want
back and forth.
Delfino to go ahead and give us
Okay,
that
let's-
answer.
let's-
Thank you very much.
Mr. Herman.
So you see, already suppressing my free speech by an interruption. Where's the fucking warning? Where's the warning?
There's your
by
warning.
the way, where is Mr. Askewy?
Warning, be
Where
on
is
topic.
Mr. Askewy? We've been asking about what Mr. Askewy is doing. Is he being paid or is he not being paid? Because he should have been well aware of the city and state laws regarding contamination in water. Should have. Now, I'm not an assembly asshole person from Sacramento, and I'm not the bitch from Sacramento, and I'm not the cunt wanting to be a person from Sacramento because I'm corrupted. I'm influencing outdated shit under 3,000 customers receiving this type of water. Is that what I read in that fucking book back there? Water wells and infrastructure. Hey, mommy, you need to keep your crowd or your animals down.
Mr.
I got
Herman.
the floor. And again, the water plan, well, the water plan was fucked up because we know that Mr. Askewy's not here to report to us. We, the people of Downey, we, the people of California, we, the constituents of California, demand where is Mr. fucking Askewy to explain his harassment, his
Mr. Herman, this is your
intolerable-
second warning. Please stay on topic or I will have you escorted out.
This is dealing with $50,000 to $150,000 for 2 fucking wells. We're going to need a lot more than that because this world is in a crisis. This world today is falling behind in water. And it's a matter of time that we're all going to be fighting for water, mommy. And little Jackson might die because of dirty water. Just like my little bitch died. And I'm not happy about it. And fuck respect. Fuck respect 42 USC 1983. Because the reason behind this water shortage is selfish, greedy, failed infrastructure by those who run our cities that we elect, figured out a way to be as reckless, stupid idiots to claim that public welfare and morals and policy is part of their new citizen oversight. And it's a bunch of bullshit. It demonstrates that no one, including elected council members, are above the understanding of contamination and how we live and drink and try to live life without fucking cancer. But instead, you morons stay home uneducated and not willing to challenge the fucking bullshit here. Fuck you, John Askewy, for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Now,
My turn.
Remember, stay on topic.
Same topic. I've been in Downey for 39 years. Pretty healthy. I drink the water daily. Every city in the country has contaminants in its water. Pretty simple. Yeah, oh my God, you're right. I'm sorry you guys have to deal with these clowns. Unfortunately, the water hasn't got to them yet.
Thank you.
I move to close public comment.
Sorry, I had to. I'm sorry.
I move to close
shouldn't
public
be-
comment.
There's a motion, there's a second. Okay, now that we've heard a discussion about water, with some untruths, also some comments that were not necessarily true, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our Public Works Director to see if he has any additional information as to the water, or maybe I should hand it on over to Dan or whoever wants to speak.
Let's start with
Sorry.
Delfino.
Yeah, I can probably start out. Thank you, Mayor Pacheco, for giving me the opportunity to explain. And Council Member from ETA, she's correct. PFAS has been around since 1940. So it's present in carpet, in shampoo, in food package products, and so forth, or food containers. So right now, currently there are no federal or state standards that regulate PFOA or PFAS or PFAS in general. What we are anticipating in the next couple of years, the state or the State Water Board will establish or set public health goals, which in turn will set MCLs or maximum contaminant levels, which will be the regulation at that point. So in anticipation of that, we anticipate that those numbers are going to be low. So we are now in the process of designing treatment facilities for 2 of our wells. And as Dan mentioned in his report, that we are going after grants to look at more treatment facilities for the other groundwater wells. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Our water meets all state and federal standards.
So, Delfino, should the residents be concerned about the water in Downey?
Well, right now, as I mentioned, our water meets all federal and state standards. Right now, there are no standards for PFAS. So in anticipation of that, we're in the process of designing treatment facilities so we can deal with that at that point when the regulations are set.
It's not public comment.
Excuse me, this is your warning. Is there any other questions or comments?
Yes, I was going to ask you, Delfino, knowing that we have the largest plant in the Western Hemisphere, Coca-Cola plant, that is here because of our water, Downey water. By the way, Dasani water is Downey water. And have there been any issues with the largest distribution, bottling, and manufacturing plant in our city regarding water contamination, Delfino? Any concerns?
Not that I am aware of, unless, Dan, are you aware of anything? He's shaking his head, so we are not aware of any.
So we are moving forward with a plan and a strategy to take care of these contaminants. But to make it clear, these contaminants have been around since the 1940s. And by the way, Mr. Martinez, the Sister Cities shirt you have, that logo is not approved for usage, and that Sister Cities Committee is no longer a part of, has never been a part of the city. And so that shirt that you're wearing shouldn't be worn. I want to make sure that the community knows he's not representing the city.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion? I will entertain a motion in a second
So
to
moved.
adopt the resolution.
Second.
To do that, you'll need to be online.
Please vote.
It's like when they used to have cocaine in Coca-Cola.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and proceed to public comment on agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items next. I will remind members of the audience, please keep your decorum. And I remind the council, if you have any questions or comments, please don't address them to the audience members. I know it can be a little frustrating, but we need to continue on with this council meeting. So if I could respectfully request that my council colleagues, please direct your comments to me, not to members of the public, so that way we can continue with the business at hand. So before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Copies of the meeting rules are located in the back of the chambers. The City Council acknowledges the right of the public to address issues that are within the city's jurisdiction and invites the public to do so during the City Council meeting. However, this right must be balanced with the need of the City Council to conduct the public business in a fair and efficient manner, free from disruption or disturbance. Members of the audience who wish to address the City Council during public comment are reminded the city meeting rules prohibit yelling, whistling, booing, screaming, and any other outburst that disturbs the meeting. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts persons who are addressing the City Council. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts council members while they are speaking, and any other conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Members of the audience violating the city's meeting rules after fair warning shall be removed from the council chambers. I remind the audience that pursuant to Penal Code Section 403, it is a misdemeanor for any person to willfully disturb or break up a public meeting. Those violating Penal Code Section 403 may be cited accordingly. Unless modified by the mayor, each speaker shall have 4 minutes to address the council regarding agenda, non-agenda, and consent calendar items pursuant to the Downey Municipal Code. The public comment period is limited to 30 minutes. I remind speakers that your comments be addressed to me and not to any other council member or staff member. City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written public comment to be incorporated into the record?
We did not, Mayor.
You're doing 3 minutes or 4 minutes? 4 minutes?
3.
Said 4.
Copies of the meeting, there's no public comment?
No, none, Mayor.
Members of the public wishing to address the City Council may now come forward and form a line. Seeing the number of speakers, each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the City Council. Mr. Herman, you may proceed.
Regarding water shortage number 1, fuck it. Regarding item 19, drones, fuck it. Regarding 4999.5 violation section 1200, as I mentioned on item 19, fuck it. On item 20, update on sidewalk vending program, racist motherfuckers, let people make a living, fuck you. Now, as far as ethics and the disregard to law, which one of the mommies said earlier in her presentation, well, let me read into the record some bullshit from LA. City investigators concluded that the various gifts provided by a real estate developer and by a businessman was part of an FBI investigation for corruption, RICO, and so forth. And it's here in my hand, which I'm going to submit into the record. Citizens oversight, fuck it. Because there is no true honesty behind a lying piece of shit who violates ethic rules and steals from the public. Goes to Vegas, rubs his hand on an escort, goes home to his wife, and makes love. What a little fucking punk. Faggot bitch. The same man, Mitch Englander in my hand, who tried to falsely arrest me in a public safety meeting. Because as I will say it on record, Gavin Newsom, you're an asshole. Trying to take away our free speech with 2 dumbass Democrats because you want to censor us and suppress us by saying, oh, sorry, that gentleman in the yellow shirt there is very offensive. He uses vulgarity. Oh my God, what a fucking nigger you are, Mr. Newsom. And you haven't done shit right, Mr. Newsom. You haven't gotten us all back 100% to living life like we used to. Either live or die. Live or die. And when my fucking dog died because some fucking cunt from the county offered me a voucher and gave me 3 weeks to have a surgery, what fucking cunt are you? Why? If I'm telling you my fucking dog is dying in 2 weeks, have compassion and allow my dog to be put down in a humane way. Not come to my home and let me go through this traumatic shit and watch her die. Fuck you, Janice Hahn. Fuck you, Hilda Solis. Fuck animal control and fuck your vouchers. Fuck all of you. You don't know what it's like to see an animal die. You don't know what it's like to be human and tell me, don't worry, you got 2 more weeks for a surgery. Fuck you.
I'm sorry if anything happened to your dog. I just wanted to say that.
She's gone. Thank you. I accept that.
Okay, Mr. Herman.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
The communist leaders of China desire to conquer Taiwan. America is an ally of Taiwan. There could very well be armed conflict between China and America over the future destiny of Taiwan. Chinese agents engage in military and industrial espionage on a scale never before seen in world history. Many units of the Chinese military operate businesses which sell manufactured products in many nations of the world. Many people do not know they are financing the Chinese military when they buy some of the products made in China. China boasts they can field an army of 200 million men. This is not an idle boast. They actually are capable of doing this. China's navy is larger than America's. Their military technology is equal to ours and is increasing in quality rapidly. The Chinese have a saying, "The greatest dragon can be overcome by many mice." This recalls to mind the words of Solomon, "In a multitude of people is a king's glory." For our state to allow abortion on demand in the face of the credible threat of war between China and America is tantamount to suicide. I hope you watch the 180movie.com and share it on social media. To clarify, #1, #8, #0 movie.com.
Thank you. Next.
I keep getting things mixed up. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. I just came to find out where we are with the drone and usage of drones in Downey as an ordinance. Also, I went down the flood control channel again today before I came here, and it hasn't changed. They separated the tires from the trash. They hauled the tires away, but they left the trash. So it hasn't improved. And last Friday, I went down there, and there was 2 trucks from the Los Angeles County Flood Control District, and both guys were asleep in them underneath the bridge. So if they're supposed to be cleaning that mess up, they're not doing it. And like I told Mr. Scott, if you go on the other side of Telegraph on Pico Rivera, you don't see all that trash, and you don't see the homeless up through there. If you go across the channel on the Santa Fe Springs side where the park is, there's no trash, and there isn't any weeds and all that. It's gotten grown up. It's a mess. So, but I'd like to know where we are with the drone, if you have any information.
It's on the agenda.
Agenda number 18.
It's
19
up.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say again, we need to stop the hatred against our police officers because that just promotes stress against their family. They're human beings too. This is a job that they should not have to worry that they're not going to come home from. Thank you. Lee Squire, Vietnam era veteran, retired Brea Finance Department employee, 31 years, auditor fraud examiner. Mayor, City Council, and we the people of Downey. Elected Water Board member Leticia Vasquez Wilson. My subject is minute order court ruling, Central Basin Municipal Water District versus Leticia Vasquez Wilson. This minute order was from a complaint filed by Central Basin Municipal Water District, CBMWD, prompted by City of Downey cease and desist letter dated March the 29th of 2021. I love that date. That's National Vietnam War Veterans Day. By Scarborough Law. CBMWs used an unsigned declaration from Assistant City Manager John Askewy. And the unsigned letter, and attached to it was an unsigned letter dated July the 6th of 2022 from Scarborough Law. The letter dated March 29th, 2021 from Scarborough Law was omitted with no reference to the Askewy Declaration. False statements. Mayor Pacheco, you being an attorney, do you have any fiduciary duty to write a letter notifying the judge as to the 2 intentional misrepresentations and the 1 omission? I have attached copies of the minute order, the unsigned Askewy Declaration, unsigned Scarborough letter, and the signed Scarborough letter. The minute order was a victory for free speech, victory for the United States Constitution, and by God Almighty, a victory for us in the military and our veterans who shed their blood for that Constitution. May God bless America. May God bless the military, its veterans and its families, and may God bless local policing and their families. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, morals and ethics. You're going to be hard-pressed to find them here. Taxes also. Back to morals and ethics. We should have the rule of law being followed, but we have a council member over here is wanting to shut down the First Amendment openly. We have a mayor that shuts down our First Amendment right to gather at our churches during a false biomedical alert, willfully goes along with it. We have another council member over here advocating to help illegal aliens stay in this country when the only thing they have a right to is to be deported. That's it. They can do it legally. We let in 1.2 million people legally every year into our country. Is that enough? If it's not enough, what would be enough? Give us a number. Come on down to the podium and tell us that number. And stop with this Jalisco connection. I mean, we see the unethical activity like with the Mexico in My Heart thing when we're trying to get $17,000 to the talent from Jalisco. And then we have the mayor of El Salto. Welcome from Jalisco. And that's where the mayor's family's roots are from. El Salto. Interesting. I knew there's a connection somewhere. But anyway, I want to talk about taxes. We have Measure R. We've been taxed on Measure R from the county. Measure S passed in 2016. We have a 10% sales tax. We had the budget discussions, and we had the finance guy, Gandhi over here, jumping up and down saying we need to get 10.5%. We need to get more. We have Public Works up here wanting a $21 a month assessment tax. We want a hotel tax. We want to raise the tax to 13%. We want a school bond now, going to tax us some more. We're still paying on the Cerritos College trustees' taxes. They don't expire until 2038. They were passed in 2004 and 2012. And the gas tax, the mayor approved of the gas tax, didn't want to give us a break on our gasoline. Amazing. But they have tax money for their friends from the Downey Arts Coalition, Stay Arts, Dia de los Muertos. All this taxes, 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 all this during a recession. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Scott, and staff, good evening. I have a potpourri of comments. Number one, I want to acknowledge the Downey Police Department for their efforts in arresting the alleged shooter of the Montebello police officer. Excellent job. Secondly, I heard a comment today. The question was asked, is the water safe? And the answer was given that it meets federal standards. So it's not clear to me that the water is safe. It meets federal standards. The question is federal standards safe or not? I think that should be the question to be answered. Thirdly, with regards to what's happening in our society today, the fabric of our country is getting torn apart more and more. Let me pick on Mr. Biden. He's done some good things, but let me pick on one or two issues that I think are very hurtful to the economy. Number one is the energy crisis. Mr. Biden's efforts in order to eliminate fossil fuels has determined that the country will no longer add additional methods in order to get additional fossil fuel or oil. So that has created an increase in prices of gas. So what he has done, he meaning Biden and the government, they've gone to our strategic oil reserve and has withdrawn millions of gallons of oil to help provide some comfort to the pricing of gas in our country. He's also gone to countries like Venezuela, to Iran, and to Saudi Arabia. But what astounded me the most is that our country has sold oil to China. So he's requesting oil from other countries, and yet our country is sending oil or selling oil to China. Now, some people might think that's an asinine thing. I happen to be one of them. That ends my comments.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor
Good
Pacheco
evening.
and council members. Dorothy Pemberton, lifelong Downey resident, always have an interest in Downey and everything that we do. It seems recently that there's been some private projects, pet projects that are being funded by the city council and their budget that many people feel shouldn't be. The recent picnic that we had is fine for the group that had it, but $25,000 coming from our city budget when we're close to a recession. Many people have said that could have been a fireworks show. How about an annual fireworks show that the city can do? How about our Rose Float Association that needs funds, that has the biggest marketing tool for the city of Downey on January 1? Funds could be for a second dog park, for a community garden. There's so many things that funds can be gone to for the entire community. And it should be looked at in an annual budget rather than brought up quickly and made decisions quickly in 30, 60, 90 days. Also, as a member of the Recall Catherine Alvarez Committee, I would like to say and thank to our residents who are listening, all the doors that are open for us. They thank us for being a watchdog of the city. They look forward to having this successfully completed. We have so many residents that are calling to have people sign on our petition. We have so many people walking, young people, old people. They feel that our voices will be heard about transparency, about honesty, and the future of our city and who it's being watched by. So thank you, residents. Thank you for blessing all of us. But again, we appreciate all the kind words that have been said. And we are far beyond our dreams of where we are right now. And it will be revealed probably next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Olena Les. I live in 8837 Manzan Avenue, Downey. Miss from ETA, looks like you're very worried about your reputation, so please start getting involved in our business, please, because you will see me saying something similar at that guy. Our neighborhood is in your district, okay? Because so far only Mr. Scott is communicating with us, and we really appreciate it. But please get involved, we are in your district. So our community demands the city to prohibit Takas Dangoe to operate in our neighborhood for many reasons we already said previously, but mainly because so far we have evidence and we documented instances that shows us that this Taco Dangoe constitutes public nuisance. According to Downey Municipal Code, Article 6, Business, Trades and Professions, Chapter 3, Revocation of Business Licenses, Section 6301, Punct B, grounds for suspension or revocation. The tax collector, which is City of Downey, shall suspend or revoke any license and or permit issued pursuant to this chapter if the tax collector makes any of the following findings and or determinations. Punct 8. The continued operations under the license and or permit would endanger, disrupt, or otherwise be detrimental to the public peace, health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the city or its inhabitants, or constitute a public nuisance. Takas Dangoe is a public nuisance. According to Cornell Law of School, there is a different definition for public nuisance, but in California, public nuisance is anything which is injurious to health or is indecent or offensive to the senses or an obstruction to the free use of property so as to interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property by an entire community and neighborhood. This is written in, this is according to Section 360 of the Penal Code in California. Taco Dangoe was reopened after fire on this last Wednesday. In just a few days of operating this place, we already documented numerous violations of numerous codes. For example, this picture shows public urination. Public urination is a public nuisance charge under California Penal Code, Section 372. These guys, it's a clients of this taco place. And all of these pictures, for me, it's what I see out of my window of my home. Another guy, here we can see two violations. Another guy is urinating publicly, and this car is parked on sidewalk. A public urination, again, is a public nuisance charge under California Penal Code, Section 372. Another code violation is a parking on sidewalk, again. Here, this is Taco Place. This is guy who came to Taco Place. Parking on sidewalk in the middle of the day. Parking on sidewalk. This is another problem. This guy, client of Taco Place, parking on a stop sign, not following rule of distance 30 feet from the sidewalk. Here is a taco owner himself parked on sidewalk. Yesterday, when this day was closed.
Good evening. My name is David Galloso. I'm pretty much reinforce what my wife just said. We were here like 2 weeks ago talking about the same issue. At that time, the place was not open. We brought up all these issues that we just talked about, my wife did, and they were confirmed within maybe the first day, right? This urination. We haven't seen anyone defecating. Maybe we missed it, but it's gonna happen. Parking, we gotta reserve our own parking spots in front of our home. Ridiculous. People parking on top of the sidewalks, doing donuts. That was caught on video. There's a video going on. This truck blocking the driveway of a neighbor, you know, and you tell them something, and these are not nice people. You tell them something, and they immediately jump to assault you. They assaulted my wife right here, some clown over there. Luckily, I wasn't there. I was on a business trip. But I say luckily because I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to get into trouble. I don't have a record or anything. I don't want to have a record for punching this guy or whatever, you know, or he might shoot me. I don't know. Right? I mean, we shouldn't have, she was in her home. This guy came and assaulted her, called her a bitch, all these derogatory names. I mean, it shouldn't be happening. Not only to that, they threatened my neighbor Chris with shooting him. Like, ridiculous. Come on, it shouldn't happen. Like I said, we were here before 2 weeks talking about this same issue, and it just proved it in a few days, maybe one day. like my wife said, this place is a public nuisance. It's violating our peace of all our neighbors here. We can't be in peace. I mean, we have to close our shades. We can't even go outside and just relax in our front yards. There's no kids playing anymore. If Mr. Scott, thank you very much for visiting there twice, I believe. I wasn't there, sorry. But the kids still are not allowed to go out there and play. I mean, it's that bad. If somebody's burning rubber and parking on the sidewalk, some guys urinating, defecating maybe over here, having picnics in front of your home, stuff like that. I mean, you don't know these people, right? Why would you let your kids go out in a nice neighborhood of ours? I mean, why should we allow that? Why should that happen? That's our question. So we are not going away. We're going to keep pressing on this. This place is a public nuisance, and we need to do something about this. Please get involved with whoever is. I know Mr. Scott's been involved, but anyone who can get involved who serves our district, our neighborhood, please do so, because we're not going away.
There's going to be more speakers. So
Thank you.
We'll let you, and we'll comment after.
Okay, so I want to go to the comments early in the meeting by Mr. LaPlante. He's complaining about members of the public complaining and making allegations of corruption. Well, you know, the fact is that corruption exists. Just today is from the district attorney's office. And it's actually been mentioned indirectly. Of course, we had Ms. Vasquez win her lawsuit. And I think, so there's two lawsuits. She won the first one, and I think she's going to win the second one for sure. And it's against partly this dude named Alex Rojas, who worked with Mr. Oscui. And Alex Rojas, according to the district attorney, has now been charged with money laundering. Who's been talking about money laundering here? So corruption is very much around, just not even a 5-minute drive to the Central Basin building. So, you know, and this corruption, it's been around the Southeast. There's been a pretension that it's not in Downey. Totally false. I think that we can all see that. So that's why I'm extra concerned. I'll go back to again, Mr. LaPlante, he can't take the heat, so he asked me to clarify about this letter I received from the district attorney. So the district attorney is making allegations that you people, including his former employee, Mr. Trujillo, are not violating the Brown Act. But I don't understand how that makes any sense for him to be able to do that, because it's a conflict of interest, because I saw that there was a Downey Beat publication. They published a picture of Mr. Trujillo giving Gascon an award. So how in the world can Mr. Gascon judge whether, you know, corruption is happening or not in Downey? Huh, Ms. Frometa? You've talked about corruption in Downey from Mr. Trujillo and others, like the mayor. So how about that? Let's talk about that. Let's also talk about $500,000 to the mayor's campaign, including people that are known to be under FBI investigation, like the former mayors of Linwood and other cities. So it's like corruption is clearly around. We don't want it. And just stop being corrupt. And I'll end with, there was a comment earlier about, I don't understand why the city is sharing, and I say this as a gay man, why is the city sharing a page that is controlled by Mr. Trujillo and LA Cada? That's unacceptable. That's just wrong. It's not acceptable.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Okay, so the previous speaker just talked about some clear documented issues of corruption in this city that not only affects this city, but it also affects other agencies like the Central Basin. Those are not big, Mr. LaPlante, and if you're too stupid to understand, we would be more than happy to sit down with you and explain it to you. So please let us know. We can schedule a meeting. Now, I like some of the things that LaPlante started off with before it got ridiculous. And one of them was moving the general manager's or the center manager's comments to the front. Excellent idea. Very smart. Suggesting that some of the other council members don't become repetitious and use this as a campaign opportunity. Excellent idea. Very, very smart. Now, saying that we need to cut and reduce people's time when they're publicly speaking, you're a little late. In fact, it seems like you haven't even been paying attention. Not only is it a violation of our First Amendment, but it's already happening. So you're actually late to the party of the violations of the people's First Amendment. So if you need to get updated, I suggest you watch some public comment on YouTube. The videos are all available. All the meetings are there. I suggest you get educated real quick. Where is John Askew? Is he still receiving money from the city? Is he fired? I want to know if my taxpayer money is going to this corrupt man's payments. You guys continue to be quiet about it. You guys are trying to get this settled through a back door. Is he taking money from our community? That's very important. Moving on. Claudia Fermetta asked a smart question for once in her life, and that was, is the water safe? Now, Delfino legally can't say that it is because there's a lot of empirical evidence showing that it isn't safe. In fact, he was smart to avoid answering the question directly. All he had to say was that it's up to state standards. By the way, the state has no good regulation on what our water contaminants are because they've been lobbied. The assembly has been lobbied, and having real regulations that are safe and healthy for our communities are not available. It isn't proactive to say that you're finally going to start addressing something simply because you're predicting that new water contaminant levels will be established. This is reactive. This is only doing your job when the horses have already left the stable. And that is why this city council has been problematic, because when activists were trying to inform our community on the water contaminants, rather than getting to work and fixing the water, they started sending attorneys to shut down the public speakers who were telling you that there was water in your food, when you're showering, and when you're using it.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Good evening. My name is Ruben Garza. I live on Manzanar. Been there for 30 years. Problem we have, parking, because of this taco stand is just ridiculous. My hat's off to Mark. He showed up. I invite any of you people sitting up there to come over on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday and see the problem that we're having. Parking is ridiculous. They park in front of my house, they don't care. You confrontate them, they want to fight. Sick and tired of it. Somebody's going to get hurt. Really hurt. You guys have to help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. So I'm here also, again, for the second time, to plead with you about Tacos Don Goyo. We forgot how peaceful our neighborhood was until they opened up again. I mean, on Wednesday when they opened up, it was chaos. People, wanting to fight, people arguing. They were outside late at night, camping, literally camping in their cars, having dinner, loud music, talking. Mind you, my kids have to wake up early. My kids have to go to school. So this is not fair. It's not fair to us. Maybe it's fair to him because he's the only one that's being this is the only thing that's benefiting is the guy, not us, at our expense. It takes our peace. It takes our tranquility away. I mean, kids cannot even come outside and play. The other day, the owner had the nerve to tell us, would you like some free tacos? Ha, 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 and laugh in our faces. Him and the lady that was sitting next to him in his car. I mean, that's a slap in the face to us. The other, some guy, we have guys that are peeing in the street, peeing my husband has pictures of it. There's people parking on top of the sidewalk now. You tell them something and they call you a bitch. They laugh at you. Even on social media, on his social media, they're calling us haters. They're calling us, what is the other, racist. I mean, it's like us against them now. And like he was saying, someone is gonna get hurt, and someone is gonna get hurt because you guys will not do anything about it. We pay taxes. We bought our home a long time ago thinking, this is a peaceful neighborhood and we're going to live in peace, and we're not. I mean, this man has literally taken our peace away for, I don't know, for how long, maybe 6 years. And I ask you, is that fair? Would you want to live in this neighborhood? Is this what you want for your neighborhood? I don't think so. I mean, I wish him well, but not at our expense. He needs his own parking. He needs his own bathroom. We can't take it anymore. People doing drugs, people eating, yelling, singing, dancing, and playing loud music at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think so. This is not fair. It's not fair to us. It's not fair. So I ask you, do you think this is fair? And I want to thank Mr. Scott for coming over, but because it seems to me like he's the only one that cares for us. And we chose you, each and one of you, to look after us, and you're failing us. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're failing me, and you're failing my family, you're failing my children, you're failing my neighbors. And it shouldn't be that way. Because I'm pretty sure your neighborhoods are all nice and tidy and quiet and clean. Come to my neighborhood and see. And this is Downey as well. So I plead with you, please do something about it. And like he said, we're not gonna give up. We're gonna keep coming and hold you responsible.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jose Luis Gomez. I hope you guys excuse my English. I need an interpreter, but I'm gonna try to speak English. Maybe you guys think we're lying, but I have pictures. This truck is in front of my house, covering my whole driveway. There's another one here. This is guys using the bathroom in my street. Literally, they use my street as a bathroom. There's another one right here. So we just, like I told you before, maybe you guys think we're lying, we exaggerate the note, but no, that's unbearable. I bring you pictures of guys double parking, using the sidewalk, and they don't care. Maybe next time you see us with a black eye or on yellow, because this is escalating. Even our neighbors sometimes disrespect you guys, because this is every day. We have to deal with this every single day. Our kids can go out. A lot of people, they're using our street as a Commodore, and I don't think it's fair. So I bring you this for you guys believe us. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me are there any further speakers? Seeing none, is there a motion
Move
to
to
close public?
close.
Is there a second? So ordered by the mayor. I'm going to go, I know our interim city manager has been out in this area. So I want to hand it over to our city manager, who will make a couple of comments.
Yeah, thank you for that chance. And I thank the neighbors who came tonight. And I've heard their impassioned pleas for assistance, and we're taking it very seriously. I want to make sure that a couple of things are understood. First of all, the city council pays me to do my job. And it wasn't just I was out there this last week. Numerous of the staff people were out there, and other people that work for the city. We work for this city council. They made sure we went out and did these things on behalf of the city. And we're happy to have done that, and we're going to keep doing that. It was only last Wednesday that the business reopened, and the description of chaos on the street is an apt description. it was very chaotic on the street that day. Absolutely, sir, we believe you when you're speaking, and the other people who spoke as well. I personally saw most of the things that were talked about tonight. We will put together the case that we need to put together. We will keep working every angle of this issue that we can work to try to get you the peace in your neighborhoods. I'm very affected by the description of the difficulty that kids in that neighborhood have being able to be out. That struck me particularly hard when I was out there. We are obviously, and I'm going to say this, please take it right, we're obviously happy for businesses in this town to be successful. But when you're located next to a residential area, there is a need to be part of the neighborhood and not opposed to the neighborhood. And if there's any way that that business can succeed long-term, it would have to be working with the neighborhood. And we frankly have not seen that yet. And I'm here to vouch for that. So I want you to know that we're hearing this. We had numerous calls even yesterday talking about tonight and talking about your desire that you keep this on front burner with the city. It is on front burner with the city, and we're going to keep working it. We will give regular updates. The city council heard all of what I saw last week. I reported back to the entire city council everything I saw last week. And we'll keep doing that, and we'll keep working with our attorneys, and we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. And you will see us again and over until we figure something out.
And I also wanted to add just that we do care, and believe me, I know Councilmember Fermetta has a couple words to say, but believe me, I can attest that she does care about what happens in your area, in your community. So I don't want you to feel like any of us do not care. I care. In fact, I spoke with our interim city manager earlier today before this council meeting to get an update as to everything that was going on. He also told me about how chaotic it was when it opened, the donuts. And so I feel for you. And we're located here on the third floor here at City Hall. We may not be here every day, but we have informed our city manager that this is a priority. So believe me, you have been heard. I'm going to let Councilmember Fermetta also say a couple words.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, City Manager Scott. Again, we understand your frustration. I've received many of your emails, including Chris, who was here 2 weeks ago. We have been in communication every day about this situation, and I've seen those photographs. We, as a city, did not have legally, we could not prevent that business from reopening. That is not something that legally we can do. Having said that, we are watching this very carefully because no one in any neighborhood should be living in the situation that you're in with a public nuisance and not being able to feel safe and let your children go out and play in your front yard. That is not okay. And so we always underline the partnerships and the collaborations between business owners and the neighborhoods that they're in. And having said all these things, some of us have full-time jobs and we are not able to come out during the middle of the day because we are in our other full-time job. But I do want you to know we are watching this situation, and code enforcement will continue to make a case so that we can proceed in a lawful way. A city cannot just go and close a business without any legal course of action. And so we have to build that case now that this restaurant has reopened, and it just reopened 1 week ago. You were here 2 weeks ago, and we are taking this very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, ma'am. 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 Ma'am.
Please don't speak out from the seats.
Ma'am, this is a warning. Ma'am.
I can do few things.
Ma'am. We can.
So I can hear you and talk to you. Imagine. Please don't speak out from the seats. We have rules of decorum for the council meeting that everybody needs to follow.
Ignore what you just said. Don't try hard.
Ma'am, we have rules for,
So they don't come here very angry, okay?
ma'am, we have rules of decorum that everybody has to follow so that we can get to our business.
Freedom of speech. First Amendment.
No.
We demand actions. This from my company. You don't have to go anywhere. Just act.
Ma'am, if you continue on, I'm going to have the Sergeant at Arms.
I just finished. I said
Okay.
what I want.
Okay. And again, I remind everyone, the reason why we have these rules of decorum is so that way we can continue to conduct the business. It's not fair for me to single out any side and say, you're allowed to speak out of line, but you're not allowed to speak out of line. So I just want to remind you that we do have rules of decorum. We are listening. It broke my heart to see the woman in tears come to our council meeting or come up to the podium. That broke my heart because I also don't believe children should be in that kind of situation. So just believe me, we've heard you. My email address is bpacheco@downeyca.org. You can always reach out to me, to our interim city manager as well. So again, we have heard you, and we are going to be doing our best along with our interim city manager and my council colleagues. Now is the time for consent calendar items. Are there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item? Before I take a motion, I would like to make a couple of announcements. For item number 12 in section 2A3 of the flag policy, the words attachment 1 and 2 are being removed. Copies of the revised flag policy have been provided to the council members and are also provided in the back of the room for members of the public. Also for item number 17, I would like to clarify. Sorry, you're being disruptive.
Keep going.
For item number 17, I would like to clarify that the golf foursome donation is for the Los Amigos Kiwanis Club of Downey and not for the Kiwanis Club of Downey. Is there any council members that would like to remove or abstain from an item?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Yes, Madam Mayor. I need to recuse myself from item 16 as I own property near this location. Thank you.
And I would like to remove item number 9. I have a couple of questions. Or anything further? Okay.
What did you say regarding item number 12?
Oh, regarding item number 12, in the flag policy, it has the words in attachment 1 and 2 in the policy itself. It has the words, but it shouldn't be there.
Oh,
So
okay,
we're
okay.
removing those words.
Okay.
Any other abstentions or anybody else removing an item? Seeing none, is there a motion and a second to approve the
So
consent?
moved.
Second.
Please vote.
By accident.
I think it should have been yes.
Thank you, thank you. The consent calendar is approved with Mayor Pacheco pulling item number 9 for separate discussion and Councilmember Trujillo abstaining from item number 16.
Okay. So the reason why I pulled item number 9 is I want to just make sure that these businesses, which are located on Imperial Highway, there's a Laudy and there's a hair salon. I know their parking will be impacted, and that's the whole reason for this item. But I want to make sure that the business itself isn't severely impacted. Do we know if construction will impact the business as their ability to operate, or is this just the parking that is being taken away from them. And this question would be for Delfino.
Yes, Mayor Pacheco. So part of this project, we will be taking a temporary construction easement, a portion of the parking area in front of the two businesses. What we can do is work with a property owner during construction to make sure that, and the contractor will provide access at all times to the businesses. I believe they have 2 or 3 parking spaces in the back also. And we will try to do whatever we can to help them out as far as getting parking available to the 2 businesses.
And from what I read, would it be the complete 6 months that they would be impacted?
No, it will really just be the portion where they're constructing the curb gutter and sidewalk in front of the 2 businesses. So that may be, I'm estimating maybe somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. I think the business owners would like to hear that better than a 6-month duration. And that's actually my only questions. I was just concerned about how these businesses would be impacted, especially given that I know some of these businesses are recovering from COVID shutdown. So I just want to make sure that they survive. And those are all my only questions. So I'll go ahead and unless there's any other questions, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve this item.
I'll second.
Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Okay, now we have 5 administrative reports this evening. The first one is an ordinance prohibiting spectators at illegal speed contests or exhibitions of speed. Introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Downey adding Chapter 15, Speed Contests or Exhibitions of Speed of Article 4, Public Welfare, Morals, and Policy of the Downey Municipal Code to prohibit spectators at illegal speed contests or exhibitions of speed. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
Yes, our city prosecutor, Jim Eckert, will provide the report.
Good evening, City Council. So this is a ordinance that is proposed to supplement state law. As you're all well aware, speed contests, street takeovers, exhibitions of speed have been hitting the news. They've been a plague in all of our local communities. And right now, although we have some state laws under the Vehicle Code that impact directly the persons that are operating the vehicles that are engaged in these street racings or speed contests or street takeovers, we're trying to actually address an ancillary component of what's going on. So this ordinance is actually designed to supplement state law and go after the spectators at these particular events. And the reason behind that is because these events attract large spectator groups. Mm-hmm. And these spectator groups not only constitute a part of the problem because they create obstructions of rights of way, both vehicular as well as pedestrians, but and sometimes they also participate in the actual event by being part of the communication network. That is, that they sometimes will utilize their cell phones or other types of devices in order to communicate with people that are participating in these events to avoid detection by the police or at least to evade the police. But above and beyond that, one of the things that local communities are noticing is that, like with many things, people who are engaged in these speed contests or these street takeovers, they want an audience, right? They want that audience. The audience actually perpetuates what's going on. So although we can attack the persons that are actually engaged in these contests through the state vehicle code, the state vehicle code and state law does not impact the spectators, and that's something that's left up to the local jurisdictions. So this particular ordinance is designed, like I say, to actually supplement state law and to prohibit people from being spectators at these particular types of street takeovers or speed contests or exhibitions of speed. It makes it a misdemeanor to be at these locations. It would also be subject to administrative citation or administrative fines. But again, the idea is to supplement state law and be able to go after a component of these events that's currently not regulated by state law. So that's basically what it is. It is a pretty straightforward and simple ordinance, but I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question. Thank you, Jim, for this. What is, when you talk about the administrative fees, because again, I think if this is meant to augment what is already in place with the state and going after these spectators, but the misdemeanor is one thing, but what is the number that we're looking at in terms of fines? Because all of this needs to be added, I think, to this particular ordinance.
So currently, the default administrative fine that this city has is $100 for a first offense, $200 for a second offense, and $500 for a third offense. That is handled as a separate component. So the administrative fines are part of a fine resolution that the City Council has previously adopted. That would not be contained in this ordinance. That would be a modification of the administrative fine ordinance, and that would be the next step. So if the council adopts this, then we could propose the modification to the administrative fine ordinance, or the administrative fine resolution, in order to deal with violations of this particular provision. But as of right now, if we make no modification of the administrative fines, it would be $100 for a first offense, $200 for a second offense, and $500 for a third or greater offense. As a misdemeanor, however, it's punishable by fines of up to $1,000 and or 6 months in jail.
Yeah, because again, I think the 100 it's laughable these days, and so I think going to $500 a first offense, and $1,000, we gotta make it count, and we gotta put some teeth into this if we really want to make any type of dent in any type of situation we've been seeing. We haven't seen too many street takeovers, thankfully, but again, we want to, as we continue to be proactive in making sure that our ordinances have teeth, I would propose that we modify those administrative fees and that they have larger amounts. I don't know what my council colleagues think.
I think you answered that question, that we first have to adopt this ordinance and then we'd come back with the administrative fees?
Correct. In order to modify the administrative fine resolution, yes.
And I had a question. Did we model this ordinance off of any other city like this? I think Lakewood has an ordinance, and I think City of Paramount.
It's very similar to that. There are some deviations from it, but it is very, very similar to them. Yes. Most ordinances that are adopted by cities to tackle this particular issue are very similar.
Are there any other questions? Councilmember LaPlante?
If you didn't notice, there was a very large article in the Los Angeles Times today regarding street takeovers. This will be obviously one component we have. Unfortunately, we have to be careful as to what we do. Compton put in those dots, big X's in intersections to stop people from taking over. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. It, in fact, said, these are the intersections you ought to come play in, because we're gonna put these big dots in there. So the people were now coming in trying to destroy the dots.
And there's some great video online that you can watch of them driving over those dots over and over and over again.
So we have to be fairly careful that we don't try to do something that backfires on us either. I mean, it was a wonderful idea if you think about it in a macro sense. We'll make it hard to go through the intersections. And suddenly, they've now made 4 intersections in Compton that everybody wants to go see if they can destroy. So we have to be careful.
Now, and let me ask you, if I may, Madam Mayor, why is it, Jim, that we didn't include the speed racing component here as well, even though it's
Are you
obviously
asking about
unlawful?
going after the operator of the vehicles that are engaged in it?
I know there's already
It's preempted by state
law.
law, and it's preempted by state law. So
Okay.
because it's already governed under the state vehicle code, we can't deal with that aspect of it under our local muni code. So that component of it, we would still have to enforce under the state vehicle code.
Okay, and with that, the impounds for those vehicles are 30 days?
So if we're talking about the impounds of the vehicles that are engaged in, it's up to 30 days, and that is also regulated by the state vehicle code. So you won't see that in our ordinance because, again, that's already dealt with under state law.
Okay. Well, I don't have any other questions or comments. I would move to approve.
So there's a motion and a second?
Second.
All right, please vote.
Now, I move to approve with also directing staff to bring back the administrative fees for review.
Okay.
Yes? Okay.
The motion is approved unanimously.
I didn't press the button.
Neither of us here.
I don't remember. I thought it was because it was late.
Although we're voting yes, I'm sure.
The motion is approved unanimously.
And the next item is an ordinance regulating unmanned aircrafts, drones. Introduce an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Downey, adding Chapter 16 Unmanned Aircraft Systems, Drones, of Article 4 Public Welfare, Morals, and Policy of the Downey Municipal Code to regulate drones. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
Voila. Mr. Eckert will continue.
Thank you. So this ordinance is designed to attack an issue that, again, has been increasing in every jurisdiction. And you heard some comments earlier tonight from people, and I know that there's been some comments from people in the last several city council meetings relating to the drone issue. And the reason why this is becoming a bigger issue is because of greater technology and lower costs, right? And so drones are becoming more popular, and they're becoming more popular from a recreational standpoint as well as from business standpoints. And we're seeing it now. Obviously, we've got Amazon and other companies that are utilizing drones for package deliveries. Primarily, the operation of drones is regulated by the federal government. And so the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has a set of rules and regulations that applies to the operation of drones. And these rules are different for recreational usage. They're different for drones that are under 55 pounds. They're different for drones that are over 55 pounds. And so there's a series of regulations. But the problem is that the regulations that have been adopted by the FAA don't deal with everything that a local jurisdiction actually needs to respond to. So it doesn't take into account and effectively regulate issues relating to privacy, to land use, to zoning issues, to trespassing issues, things of that nature. Those are things that are specifically left up to local jurisdictions to regulate. So in enacting this ordinance, this was designed, again, to work alongside with federal regulations and rules, as well as some of the state laws that have recently passed pertaining to liability issues. This one is actually set to to impose some additional regulations within our jurisdiction that are reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to balance the rights of people who want to utilize drones for both recreational and commercial purposes, along with the rights of the rest of the community to privacy and security, and again, to allow for the city to exercise its land use regulatory authority. And so within the staff report, there is kind of a bullet point list of just some of the highlights, if you will. Some of those things include limiting the hours in which drones would be able to be operated within the city. That would be from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. It would require people who operate drones to ensure that the drones are always within a visual line of sight. That means that they can't be flying them too far off. They can't fly them over structures where they can't see them. Because again, we want to make sure that people are protected. It would prohibit them from operating within 100 feet vertically of a city sidewalk, and they wouldn't be allowed to take off or land on the city sidewalk. And we have regulations restricting proximity to schools during school hours, things of that nature. One of the additional things that we've included within this is we've included in procedures for operators who, while operating a drone, cause either injury to a person or damage to personal property, and the obligation for them to contact the person who's been injured and or the person whose property has been damaged, and if they cannot do that, to report to the police department. And that way, we have the information of the police department should someone come in later and say, hey, I was injured by this drone, or my property was damaged by this drone. We additionally have a provision in here that would require them to report if they cause any damage to public property, to city-owned property. So these are some of the regulations that we've imposed. I do want to indicate that we received at about 6 o'clock tonight communication from the gas company, wanting to ensure whether or not this ordinance would impact the gas company's use of drones. They indicate that they use drones for purposes of detecting gas leaks and for other types of emergency purposes. So as of right now, the way that it's currently drafted, it would in fact impact it would impact the utilities. Because they are private entities, although there are exemptions for publicly operated unmanned aircrafts or drones, it wouldn't include that. So I am proposing, before the council actually does the introduction, an amendment to or a modification of the definition for public UAS. That is actually on page 4 of 9 of the ordinance. It is under proposed section 4999.1. subsection J. And what I'd be proposing would be the addition of language after city contracted agent or agency to include or Downey franchised utility companies. And so the entirety of that provision would read, public UAS shall mean an unmanned aircraft or unmanned aircraft system operated by any public agency or city contracted agent or agency or Downey franchised utility companies for government-related purposes, including but not limited to, and then there's a laundry list of things that while they're doing, they would be exempt. Again, it was not the city's intent to include operations by the utility companies where they're operating, again, for purposes of public safety to evaluate breakages in lines and things of that nature. And so we would be recommending that addition in order to exclude them from regulations under this ordinance. That's basically what it is. Again, this also would be subject to both misdemeanor prosecution as well as administrative citations. And to beat you to the question, Councilmember Fermetta, it would be 100, 200, and 500 right now, unless there's a modification of it.
We need to modify those, Jim.
And obviously, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from my council colleagues? Councilmember Fermetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do, Jim. I have this question.
Sure.
As I look at the, I lost my place. Bear with me. I'm having technical difficulties. As I read this, in the bullet points on the report, for the 100 feet in certain locations, one of the things that also strikes me is there is nothing, prohibiting the takeoff, landing, or operation of drones in a manner that serves to harass, stalk, disturb, frighten, intimidate, injure, threaten, victimize, or otherwise cause mental or emotional distress to any person or animal on public or private property. Okay, so how do we prove that? And how, what do we really, how do we really protect our residents that do feel an invasion of privacy? Because this drone could be flying from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and, they say they're not on this public sidewalk and they are. So how do we extend that element of protection to our residents that indicate my privacy is being invaded?
So there are a couple of additional things. So if you'd like to put your attention to 4999.3 subsection C, that's on page 5 of 9 of the ordinance. We prohibit, for example, here that the UAS shall not take off, land, or be on or over any privately owned property other than one belonging to the operator or operator's assistant without the express written consent of the owner and or occupant of that property. So that's one way where it's not an issue of intent, right? I mean, that's just an issue that if you're flying it over our private property and you don't have the consent of the owner or occupant of that property, that's a problem, right? And so that's being prohibited. The issue that you're looking at with respect to harassment and things of that nature is really designed to deal with something that the state law does not actually deal with. So the state law does impose some liability for people who are utilizing drones with cameras or audio recording equipment who are invading people's privacy. We're drafting something that goes, again, above and beyond that, which is you might have somebody who does, I'll throw it out there, a Maverick sort of situation or a Top Gun situation where they're just doing flybys That could be a perfect example. There's no legitimate reason for you to be doing flybys next to me, whether I'm in a park or elsewhere. So that could be something that could be looked at. And the reality is, with any type of legislation that we include an intent requirement, it's always the difficulty of the police department, of our office in prosecuting that, to actually demonstrate the intent. But we do it all the time. And we do it based on the totality of the circumstances of what's going on, how the operation of that drone is being done at that particular time. It might be an issue of repetition. It might be an issue, again, of, why is it flying within 3 feet of my ear? So there's a lot of different issues that we would look at for purposes of being able to demonstrate the intent. But it may not be the only ground that we would be utilizing, because again, if it's going over private property, we do have provisions that talk about, again, the recording, and that's both under state law as well, that if they're utilizing it for those purposes, then that would be a violation as well.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's assume a private citizen has this experience. Somebody's buzzing their property, bothering them. They know it, but the city doesn't. So they're going to call and tell us that they're having this problem. We show up and we don't see it. How does that get played out over time so that the city's in a position to actually take action on that?
That's a great question, and that's very similar to a lot of other regulations that we actually enact. We deal with that with noise issues all the time, where we might get a call about a loud party disturbance. The police department shows up, and guess what? They've turned down the noise at that time. We get it with dog nuisance issues, right, where we've got the barking dog or the dog doing something, and it happens when code enforcement is not here, and we might be closed on that day. And sometimes the reality is, and this is a little disappointing, but sometimes we do have to rely on the victims to provide us with information. They may need to testify. They may need to do some recording of their own. I mean, ultimately, we would need to be able to identify the operator of that drone. And they might be able to help us out with that information. We might be able to, if it happens one time, okay. If it happens every day at 3 p.m., maybe we deal with it like we're dealing with many other situations. So there are ways to deal with that, but I will admit that in some of these instances, there's going to be a reliance on the quote-unquote victim of this case to have to participate in this. And I will say that, especially when we're dealing with something where we're trying to protect this person's privacy, ultimately, I'm never going to be able to demonstrate on my own that this invaded that person's privacy. That person is going to need to be involved in an enforcement action, especially if we go into a criminal court, to be able to demonstrate and to be able to testify about, yes, this did violate my privacy. This is what happened. And that happens in lots of cases, right? We ask victims to come in and testify in court all the time. And this might be one of those instances. But again, there might be other ways to do it by way of videos and photographs. And again, we'd have to try and document who operates that actual drone, because that's the issue, is we're going after the operator. I will also point out that, again, under state law, there's also some civil liability. And so there is a private right of action by victims for cases where we may not be able to get the evidence. They have their own right of action that they can file under state law.
Are there any other questions?
I move to approve, Madam Mayor, with the amendment, including the public utilities, and also with a caveat that we are going to look at our administrative fees.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Please vote.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Always appreciate
Thank you.
having you here.
The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Jim, for joining us this evening and for waiting during the duration of the meeting. The next administrative item is update on Sidewalk vending program. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report?
I'll start the discussion. The next three items, in fact, are on the agenda at the request of council members, and I certainly don't want to preempt the council members' discussions on these, so I'll just introduce this. The sidewalk vending item will look familiar because we had it a few weeks ago, and the question that Mayor Pro Tem brought forward at that time is whether there was some way we might waive certain of our city fees associated with sidewalk vending permits to make it easier for people to obtain them. We had only had 2 permits issued, and I don't know that we've had any since, to sidewalk vendors under the policy that's already adopted. And as you can see in the report that Vanya provided in the staff report, that the fees are fairly substantial, especially if you're in the food vending business. By the way, a side note here, I was advised by our city prosecutor, if he's still here, that, there he is, that the county actually has put some restrictions on food vending that we probably should know about as we go forward, and then I'll get back to the actual issue. But can you very quickly explain that?
Absolutely. So within every jurisdiction, specifically within LA County, if a sidewalk vendor or any vendor who vends edibles, foods, drinks, they need to get a county health permit. The County of Los Angeles does have some very strict regulations in order to protect the health and safety, and they define the risk category of food vending into low risk and high risk. Low risk is typically prepackaged foods. And specifically now I'm talking about the sidewalk vendors as opposed to restaurants and the like, although they also have to comply with health requirements. But with the sidewalk vendors, they regulate low risk, which is typically prepackaged food. So that might mean chips, things of that nature, or it could even include fruit that has been pre-cut and is already packaged, wrapped, so on and so forth, and being sold in that way. High risk category are things where they're not prepackaged, so anything that's being cooked. The taco vendors who are cooking the meats and everything at the location. Fruit vendors who are actually cutting up the fruits at that location, they, by county health, fall into the high-risk category. I can tell you that at this time, and I'm sorry, also ice cream vendors would fall into the low-risk category because, again, they're prepackaged foods. I can tell you that at this time, it's my understanding that LA County Health has not issued a single permit for a high-risk sidewalk vendor. Because they do not yet have the ability to meet the health code requirements. So that is always an issue. Compliance with our law would require compliance with the county health code, would require them to get the county health permit. But I can tell you that right now, my understanding, I spoke with county health about 3 weeks ago, and at least as of that point, they have indicated they have not issued one single sidewalk vending, let me back that up. They have not issued one single health permit to a sidewalk vendor who would fall within the high-risk category, because at this time the requirements to comply with the health code are very strenuous. And they just aren't meeting them. And that's the issue. Now, obviously, if someone could meet all of those health code requirements for sanitation and proper care for the food, again, when you look at the ice cream vendors, they have a refrigerated compartment. That's pretty much all you need. But when you're cutting up other things, you need to have the ability to wash the utensils that you're using, to properly sanitize, to store all of the food that you have in a safe manner, especially if you're going to be vending throughout the entire day. All of these things need to be done under the county health code, and a permit wouldn't be issued until they can comply with that.
So basically, you can't be a hot dog vendor in LA County right now.
Not right now. Hot dog, taco, corn.
So here, if we see vendors in our city, again, with food, we are to assume they don't have a county of health permit.
They might have a county of LA health permit, but it would not be for that high risk category. Okay. So I will say that. Again, I represent numerous jurisdictions, so we do have some jurisdictions where someone might have a low-risk health permit, for example, to sell prepackaged fruit. But then what they actually go out and do is sell in a high-risk category, and they start actually dicing up and cutting the fruit there. And so they're misusing the health permit that they have, or technically doing something that they're not permitted to do. So I wouldn't say that they don't have a permit. I would just say they don't have a permit for that specific type of activity if it falls within the non-prepackaged category.
So, and how are we enforcing the vendors that we do see? Because I have seen an increase in food vendors around our city. If my memory serves me correct, the last meeting we had, and we discussed this topic, there had not been any number of permits issued.
Right.
So we are then to say the local vendors do not have the permits to operate in our city. So how are we enforcing and making sure that if they do not have the right permits to operate, that they do not operate within the city boundaries? And Councilmember LaPlante, just a
Yeah, he
minute.
does have a question, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't finished my initial presentation yet either, so there's a lot yet to cover here. As of right now, my understanding, and I'm looking to see if anybody on staff knows otherwise, my understanding is we only have 2 permits that we've issued as of right now. Is that?
If I might, we only have one that the city has actually issued.
We only have one?
One.
Well, that's half as bad.
And I believe that's for prepackaged food.
Yes, it is prepackaged low risk.
So if you see somebody operating in the city right now, there would be a presumption that they aren't permitted. Now, I doubt very much that that's the highest priority enforcement that we're doing. And so unless there's a particular complaint that causes us some concern about a vendor, that's probably not being aggressively enforced. And that has been one of the problems I've had in bringing this item forward. I know that the Mayor Pro Tem, in bringing this issue up, wasn't trying to bring up an issue to put sidewalk vendors out of business. She was trying to find a way to make it possible for them to operate within the city legally and affordably. And yet the other side of the issue is, if we're going to say we're going to make concessions to allow it to be easier to get a permit, there's an assumption there we will enforce those that don't get a permit.
Correct.
And when you look at the fees, you can see the fees are substantial, and waiving our small portion of it is not likely in most cases going to result in somebody wanting to get a permit. I almost think if it's a value of the city that this city wants to have a certain number of sidewalk vendors, and I don't know if that's a council goal or not, but if that were a goal of the city council, then we would have to do an explicit strategy to figure out how to make that possible, and probably to even have to subsidize sidewalk vendors. But I'm not sure that is your goal. So I wanted to bring this back and put it on. Catherine deserves a chance to speak on this, and we should allow her to do that. But I think for us on the staff level to know where to go with this, we really need to have a better understanding of what is the objective we're trying to reach here.
Let me go ahead and have Councilmember LaPlante, do you have a question?
As long as James is still going to be here, I'll wait. I just want to make sure that I have the legal.
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Clock's still, meter's still running. No, go ahead.
My point of bringing this is not to criminalize vendors. It's more of helping, like you said. So I would like to see if we can give out workshops or anything related to how become a street vendor in Downey and not criminalize the street vendors directly, because that's not my point. My point is to help them be here in Downey because we already have them. It's nothing that we are gonna get rid of ASAP or naturally tomorrow there's not gonna be no vendors in the city. That's gonna be wrong, because it's not true. Vendors are here and vendors are gonna stay. I mean, that's cultural for the Hispanic, Latino, and even for the white community. So I don't think that's my point in here.
The only thing I would add to that, Councilmember Alvarez, is that at this point, it's not a criminal action. So when the state passed SB 946, one of the things they specifically did was decriminalize sidewalk vending. That's to be differentiated from other types of itinerant vendors who might be setting up on private property. But at least with the sidewalk vendors, it's no longer a criminal action. And so when you were asking Councilmember Fromet about like what the penalty, it's an administrative citation. And that's set by state law. The amount of the fine is set by state law. The idea of it only being punishable by a administrative fine is set by state law. That's not something that we can do, but it's not a criminal action at this point. And I can appreciate the idea of trying to facilitate the ability for them to operate legally. I will say that at least for the food vendors, and this is to be differentiated from people who might be selling roses or non-food items, their biggest hurdle is not with the city, it's with the county health department. That's the reality, is in order for them to operate legally, they have to comply with health code requirements, just like every restaurant does. It's not the city. The city's not going to be the stumbling block for people to get it. It's going to be the county health department. Other than, like I say, the non-food vendors. Those ones would come through the city. They get a license from the California Fee and Tax Administration. It's the old State Board of Equalization. To get their state retail seller's license. And they come to the city and they can get their permit. And that's a simple process for people who aren't selling food. The food issue is the county health.
Right.
And that's something that at this level, I mean, we can't get around. We can't waive the requirement to comply with the county health code. And between me and you, I don't know why we would want to. It's there for health and safety reasons.
Councilmember LaPlante, I think you had a question.
So you mentioned the administrative fines are set by state law.
Correct.
What are they, roughly? $5, $500?
Well,
I can answer that, Councilmember
complicated.
LaPlante. So
Okay.
there's actually two different criteria. So there's one that for those vending permits issued by this, that let's say we did give them a permit and we cite them. So there's a 100 for first violation, 200 for a second violation within a 1 year of the first violation, and then 500 for each additional violation. If the sidewalk vendor does not have a permit with the city, then it's $250 for the first violation, $500 for the second violation within 1 year of the first violation, and then $1,000 for additional violation within the 1 year.
Okay. But I will add to that. So what the state did was they distinguished between people who are violating a condition of a permit versus the people who are selling without the permit. The people who are selling without a permit, we are required again by state law that if they get the permit after the fact, we actually reduce those fines down to the same fine that it would have been if they had violated a condition of the permit. Additionally, the state has set out that people who meet certain income requirements, basically they fall within a low income category, can actually pay only 20% of that fine, and the city would have to deem it as payment in full. So they would have to submit documentation to prove that they meet the state mandated guidelines. But if they do, they would pay 20% of that fine. So on a $100 fine, you're looking at $20. And again, set by state law, we have no control over changing that.
Any other questions?
The one vendor we do have, what are they set up to be able to do without?
The permit that he has is for a low risk, so prepackaged fruit vending.
Okay. So if somebody was out selling roses at graduations or we were next to a cemetery, which we're not. Well, I'm talking about the people at Rose Hills where you're driving in. Those would be a city permit that they would need to get.
A city permit and a retail seller's license.
Retail seller's license. And all the other kinds of things are not.
That's assuming they're on the sidewalk. So,
Right.
I mean, I just want to be clear about that because people who sell on private property, for example, the Mother's Day booths that oftentimes set up on the corner of a CVS or a gas station, they're not sidewalk vendors. People who set up on private property in any way, shape, or form are not sidewalk vendors and are not covered by the sidewalk vending permit. They're required to get an actual license and regulatory permit through the city, which is a different process. So if you're talking about ones that might be selling flowers on a sidewalk, yes. If they're selling it on the median of a roadway, No, they're not a sidewalk vendor because the median of a roadway is not a sidewalk under state law, right? I mean, the idea is that they can only sell in locations where pedestrian traffic, where it's set up solely for pedestrian traffic. If they're set up in a location that's not set up for that, they're not to be included. And again, because there's life safety issues involved if they're in the middle of a roadway.
So the ones that are set up at the corner of the CVS or wherever, what is the requirements for those? Because those are the ones we certainly see more often as that are non-food.
Yes, so there's a peddler permit that the city's
Okay.
had on the books for a long time, and they would have to qualify for that. There's a background check. They still have to go through an application process. So there's, those permits are issued for a temporary period of time. Approval from the landlord of who the property that they're actually going to be operating on. So there's a process that it goes through, and we've had that permit. That's the same actually permit that sidewalk vendors used to have to get until the new state law came out. And then what we did was we basically separated out the sidewalk vendors. Everybody else still falls under the old regulation, and the sidewalk vendors are under the new state regs, basically.
And I'm betting that most of those people who should have a peddler's license don't have one either.
That would be my guess as well. I mean, again, we do have licensed food trucks.
Yeah.
We do have licensed ice cream.
Yeah.
And there are regulations with respect to those individuals, again, proximity to schools, things of that nature. So I believe we do have a few licensed non-sidewalk vendors out there. But my guess is that a majority of the people in your jurisdiction, just like in most jurisdictions that are selling other items, probably are not doing it with a permit.
Next thing you know, you're going to tell me those people selling me hot dogs outside the Coliseum with bacon around them probably aren't legal either.
I would never tell you that. They're good, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but what you're really saying on these kind of vendors is that there is not one licensed in LA County.
Of the high-risk category, that is correct.
Where they're preparing food on the streets, on somebody's lawn, whatever, there is not one.
So I will say that there might be caterers.
Okay, different.
Which is a different health category.
Right.
And so the people who may come and, for example, do a taco party at your house. Because they can comply with health code requirements because they might have access to portions of your house that would allow them to, sanitize and do things of that nature. But that's a slightly different permit.
Yeah.
So the front lawn, again, depending on what it is,
But sidewalks and streets and
correct.
No one in LA County has that. So we're talking about trying to solve a problem that is a county problem more than anything we could ever do, because we can't make that legal. We don't have a health department.
You're correct. We don't have a health department, and we can't change the health department regulations.
Okay.
So interim city manager?
If I could reclaim this. I think the gist of this is that this is a very complicated issue, and it was why it took a while to bring it back. In fact, I credit Catherine that it's even back at all, because I was kind of stumped. I believe that what I'm hearing is that the proposal is that we create a mechanism to help train and coach people who are interested in getting this kind of permitting, so that we can make it easier for them to operate legally and help them to make a living. And I'm more than happy on the staff level, if the council's interested, to try to put together that kind of mechanism to help people who are interested in working with us. If that's the gist of your proposal, I would be happy to do that if the council so directs.
Yes, I would like to do that. Thank you, Scott.
Is there any other questions, comments?
If what we're trying to do is have a small staff program that allows people to try to obey the law, I'm in favor of helping people obey the law, and as opposed to having them out there breaking the law. If we can have some kind of small program that instructs them of here's the regulations and here's the rules, I'm not sure it's going to get them to obey them, but it won't hurt.
We can try.
We might be able to do that in conjunction with the health department and have them come and provide additional information.
Yeah.
I just don't think spending, our resources, that there's other pressing matters that we have. And yes, I'm all for education. I think education campaigns, but having staff direct efforts in something that right now I think is low priority.
But we would this take up a lot of staff time?
Oh, I doubt
Or
it.
what is the staff, what is?
So currently, whenever code enforcement does get complaints or reports of sidewalk vendors or street vendors, when the code enforcement officers go out, their primary interaction is to take an application and educate them on the fact that there is a permit process, and they designate them to come into City Hall. When they come in, I know our public works staff spends time at the counter walking them through the application and all of the different requirements. So it is being done. We don't have a formalized program, but that's always staff's first approach is out in the field. We ask them to clean up and leave, but then we do give them the application and designate them to come in and talk to staff about it.
It is already happening.
Yeah.
Case by case, and I think we could offer it as something that more than one at a time might be able to come in and take advantage of the same training.
So there's really isn't much we need to do since we're already offering help. When we encounter street vendors, we try to provide them with the education and we take the time, correct?
That would be our goal, yes.
Okay. So I don't think there's really much we need to do.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So we don't
Thank
need
you.
to take a motion on this. Thank you, Jim. A wealth of information.
Yeah, it's a tough topic.
It is. Okay, we're going to proceed on to the next item, which is discussion of filming location contract. Interim City Manager Scott, is there a staff report on this one?
Yeah, again, I'll tee it up. I want to make sure that Councilmember Trujillo has an opportunity to address this as well. I believe, if I can paraphrase his comments to me, his interest in this topic has been revenue production. And to quote him in one comment he made to me one day, more is better than less when it comes to revenue. And so the idea of someone proposing a service which would allow us to contract out our filming locations. There's locations the city owns and controls that could be used for filming, was an idea to generate revenue. I certainly endorse the idea of revenue generation, and I endorse the idea of supporting the film industry. That's a big LA issue. What I wasn't excited about was the proposal that we had to look at. I just found that there were some aspects of that proposal that left me uncomfortable. As a result, I hadn't put this back on the agenda yet. It hadn't been on the agenda since I've been here. I think Mr. Trujillo had some questions about what would it take to bring it forward or something like this forward, and I would address that to him if the mayor pleases.
Yes.
I would address that to him.
Thank you. Yes, the interim city manager as well as the interim city attorney have been looking at this idea that I first brought up to former city manager Livas and then assistant city manager Schindler. They've been working with a vendor specifically to try to come up with a contract that we could present to the council for adoption. The interim city manager did raise some valid points. So I wanted this item to be here because it is my hope that we can produce some revenue by bringing filming to Downey. Obviously, I want the residents to know that this is not designed, obviously, to be an inconvenience, and we would work through those glitches of how can we use our city facilities to produce revenue. So I would like the staff to do, at the recommendation of the interim city manager, whatever needs to be done so we can, if it's an RFP, that's fine. But I've asked for this, like I said, it must have been a year ago. No one recommended an RFP at that point. They kept working with this one vendor, right? And going back to the drawing board with her, since there's been a change in leadership, now you get to pick it up and you highlighted some things that we should consider. I'm fine with that. I want to follow the staff's lead, but this is a priority for me. So sooner rather than later, I would ask that the staff do whatever they need to do so we could hopefully start producing some revenue.
If, Madam Mayor, if I may, Councilmember Trujillo, I think we all agree we want revenue in our city, considering a lot of the projects that are going on, and know that we used to have a Downey Studios that produced very successful films. Having said that, however, when you mention this is something that has been in the works for a year, I must tell you, this is the first I hear of it. This is something that did not come before the council before. And if it didn't, I do have a problem with that, because I think as council members, we must bring any issue to this body in transparency and open discussion to the public. So when you say a year ago, this was being worked on without any of our knowledge, I think it's, we need to make sure that we move forward, absolutely. But just in this report, it indicates that they propose to handle Downey locations as the exclusive leasing agency in return for 25 to 30% share of lease revenues. That's a significant number. And I'm not a producer, and I'm certainly not an agent, a filming scout, but I would like to have more information on this matter, and I would like this to go to RFP, because I think that is the way we do business in our city, to provide a fair and equitable opportunity to various companies and see who is adequately skilled and experienced and has a track record for doing this sort of thing. But I'm with you. I like the idea of generating revenue for our city.
Councilmember LaPlante?
First of all, for the 3 members of the public that are still watching, RFP means request for proposal. We tend to talk in code up here, and
Thank you, Don.
I think before we do anything, we certainly would want to get proposals from people who do this. If this were, something or other in the middle of Tennessee, there's probably one vendor who does it. There's probably plenty of people who can do this in the LA area. And since we're in that magic 30-mile zone, TMZ, for those of you who never knew what it meant, the 30-mile zone from the studios, we're a prime filming location. I mean, we shouldn't just be worried about any city stuff. I mean, we should be trying to promote people going to the old McDonald's and all sorts of places in this town that have location, the Orange Estates area. There's lots of little areas there where you could do a lot of filming that looks like the 1950s if that's what you're trying to do. So I think it would be a great idea, but we need to make sure that staff, gets a proposal out and sees what's out there. Maybe we're getting a great deal at 25% from this one vendor, or maybe somebody's go, boy, they're trying to take advantage of you. Everybody else does it for 12, We just don't know. It's the classic of we don't know what we don't know until we get some proposals and figure it out. But I don't have a problem with finding out the information. And just
Agreed.
Any other council comments? Seeing none, it seems like we're directing this to go back to staff, and nothing needs to be done on this one.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
so how soon could I expect an RFP to be issued for this?
6 weeks.
Thank you. No further questions or comments. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right.
And thank you for the information, Mr. Scott.
Sure.
Mr. Scott is too generous. I would have said 2 months instead of 6 weeks.
We want the revenue.
I'm only around a short while.
Have a lot of work to do. The last item is discuss funding for the Downey Rose Float Association for fiscal year 2022-23. This item was requested by council members from Meta and Trujillo. I'm going to hand it over to our interim city manager to see if you have any comments before we kick it over to our council colleagues.
Well, I always love an issue when it comes up and everybody seems to be in favor of it. So that was the good news. If I've misstated that and someone isn't in favor, I'm embarrassed and I'm sorry. But I have heard from different council members their strong belief that the Rose Float tradition of this community is a source of extreme pride and great marketing for our community. And the strong interest in helping to fund. My question to the council is, how much?
If I may.
Yeah.
Yes, if I may, thank you. And this is something that Councilmember Trujillo had brought up as well, and we didn't obviously discuss a particular figure, but knowing historically the cost of this float can be anywhere between $60,000 and $85,000. I am not proposing that we go in that direction. Nobody have some heartburn, but because this is a source of pride for this community. We all tune in January 1st to watch our Downey Rose Float go by, and we have our Downey princesses on that float. And really, it's been going on for 50 years. And people sitting in this audience have been here for many hours tonight, but they've been part of this float as volunteers for over 35 years. My proposal is for $20,000. That would be at least 1/4 of what it would cost to build this float. Again, this is done entirely by volunteers. And if we have the funds for the International Food Festival that brings the community together, for Havana Nights, for the Pride Festival, for all of these things that bring our community together, then we need to support the efforts that this organization has been working hard for the last 50 years to build this float. And so my proposal is for $20,000, and that's 1/4 of what what the float would cost.
I second that.
And I did have a point of clarification. Would this be done on a yearly basis, or is this a one-time?
No. I'm proposing that this is part of our budget and on an annual basis. This is something that we need to, we needed to have done this before, with times being what they are, and continuing to have, for years we've relied on volunteers, on high schoolers, on college kids. Many of us have participated in some way, shape, or form voluntarily, and I think it's time that we step up. I think Councilmember Trujillo, you said that as well, and I think
Yes.
we are supportive of that.
I know our colleague has his hand up, but I agree about the annual. It should be woven into the fabric of who we are as our city, and it should be part of our annual budget. 20,000, I second that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have Councilmember LaPlante ask a question.
Well, number one, I guess the first question to the city attorney is we didn't have a number or any proposal on here other than discuss, so I'm not sure we can legally do it at this meeting. And even if we can, I would think that our best thing to do would be to ask the city manager to talk to the Rose Float Association. Maybe 20,000 isn't enough. And get some information from them as opposed to making a decision at the table tonight. I don't have a problem with the number, but I'd like to make sure that we're helping them in, I don't need the Rose Float Association coming back in November going, we need another 10,000 to get the thing done. If we're going to do it, if we're going to have to help them, let's help them in one fell swoop and figure out where we're at, especially this year considering COVID and everything else. I'd just as soon do it right instead of just tossing out a number. Maybe it's 30,000, maybe it's 35, I don't know.
Councilmember LaPlante, the reason I said that is, again, I wanted to be conscientious of where we are and the fact that we already adopted our budget. And so we can come back and reconsider a different amount, the following year. But, and again, I wanted to be looking at the totality, how much, and it all depends on hydraulics, on mechanics, if we're having a little roller coaster on that floor, depending how elaborate and the type of flowers, etc. But knowing that we've already passed a balanced budget, and we can't, take from, rob from Paul to pay Peter, so to speak. I just want to be conscientious of, we don't have an unlimited amount of funds,
Right.
so I just want to be.
But I
hear you. And
Yeah,
I think that we can have that
my
discussion.
suggestion is we have a proposal. We know I don't honestly know what the Rose Float Association costs are, or what their budget is. And this is, a one-page report that says, here's what this year's float's gonna cost. Here's how much we've raised. Here's the kind of money we need to help to make it right. Rather than just tossing out a number.
Well, and what this is the information that we Councilmember Trujillo and I had received from the president of the Rose Float Association. It costs anywhere between $60,000 to $84,000, roughly, depending on how elaborate this float is. And considering things have gone up significantly over the last year, again, I'm not tied to a number. We can further discuss as we look at future years. But I think for now, looking at where we stand in terms of our budget, I think that was my initial thought. I welcome other council colleagues'
I'm
comments.
going to have an interim city attorney say a couple of comments.
Sure, I just wanted to answer Councilmember LaPlante's question that from a Brown Act perspective, I think you can provide a funding direction for this calendar year, 22-23, and you could provide some direction for future budgets, but future budgets would be subject to future budget discussions.
Okay.
And maybe we don't know the answer to this question. I know there's other cities that have self-funded floats. Do we know if, I believe other cities do contribute into those floats. Do we know approximately, and maybe that's not something that staff would know.
This is embarrassing because Burbank's one of them when I was city manager, and I don't know the answer to the question.
But Burbank did.
We did definitely, somebody back there know? We definitely did contribute.
Well, unfortunately, we can't get comments from.
Sorry.
I just thought maybe like staff knew, but I think just knowing that other cities have done it.
Definitely, yeah. Believe me, out of my own pocket, I contributed to a lot of fundraisers in Burbank.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez?
Yes, thank you. So we got a proposal for art and culture not long ago. Do you remember, anyone remember the amount of money that it was in that proposal by any chance?
We don't have the specific number in front of us, but I believe it was related to the chassis that need to be replaced in relation to the Rose Float. So I think, I'm not sure if the group here can provide information, but that was what that was in relation to, not to the actual float itself. That's something separate that I believe is being discussed today.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember LaPlante?
One thing that I just heard that now bothers me, 2 members of the council got a report that the other 3 of us apparently didn't.
Well, it was a letter.
A letter.
Where was the letter? Is it in here that I missed? Because it doesn't, I've got a one-page piece of paper.
Remember, Don, we asked for the information because we both put this
Okay,
on the
but-
agenda, and so they gave us that information.
But
We
it's
wanted to
not
make
yet been provided to the other members of the council. Has it?
If it didn't get to all of you, that's our
We'll make
mistake.
sure, yes.
I had thought the whole council got it, but I could be wrong.
Did you get it, Mrs. Alvarez?
No.
I didn't get anything.
Okay, that's my concern is we're operating at this moment with 2 members of the council seeing a breakout of dollar information and the other 3 of us haven't seen or evaluated. I'm perfectly comfortable doing 20,000 next meeting after we've all seen it. But I'm uncomfortable having 2 members of the council have information that the other 3 of us haven't seen.
Okay, that's fine. And I completely understand. I haven't seen anything either.
Yeah. And it happens that mistakes happen in offices. People think that people have gotten something that everybody got that they didn't. But as I said, I'm perfectly happy. I wouldn't mind funding $50,000 for the Rose Float Association, but I want to know what's the real numbers are.
Their request is going up about a minute.
Don't worry, they'll negotiate it down. Mr. Scott will negotiate the number down.
So we can always put it on the agenda for the next council meeting. And we can also put it on the consent calendar with a more detailed staff report because Councilmember LaPlante is correct. This report, it has no information whatsoever. So do we need to make a motion or can we just put it on to?
I think you can just give direction to city manager to put it
Okay.
on the next agenda.
We'll just put it on the
We'll put it on the
consent then.
next.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I apologize that we didn't have that letter for everybody.
And to our Downey Roosevelt people here, thank you for being here at our council meeting. We love our Rose Float. I've also contributed and gone to many events for the Rose Float. So it is something that we all hold near and dear to our hearts here on council. So we appreciate you coming to the council meeting, and it will be on the next agenda for the next council meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our city manager for some comments. Report on improvement in city's CalPERS funded status by Finance Director Anil Gandhi.
Yeah, let's start with that, and then I've got a couple other comments that I want to add, just generic comments before we adjourn. This is good news.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Just to remind you and give you a background that city had issued pension obligation bonds, or POBs as they are called, in February of 2021, $414 million. At the time of issuance, city's pension liability was $211 million. And the city's funded ratio was between 66 and 68%. 66% for the safety and 68% for non-safety, which was very low. To take the advantage of the lower interest rate at that time in February of 2021, we issued these bonds. We have just received our CalPERS annual plan valuation report for period ending June 30th, 2021, and our funded ratio as of June 30, 2021 is 94%. When we issued the bonds, our target was 85%. And right now it's 91% as of 2021. The contributing factor for such a high funded ratio is combination of two things. One is the issuance of the bonds, and the second was the high interest earnings by the CalPERS for 2021. This cumulated in a higher funding ratio for us for period 2021. Now, on the other side of the coin is, for 2022 fiscal year, CalPERS had a negative returns. So next year, that this number will go down, but we are confident or optimistic that it will be around 85%, which was our target when we issued the bonds. But right now it's 94%, so let's enjoy it. And this will result in lower pension cost for some period of time. Just the presentation, sir.
And
So that's the good news. Well, that's the good news until next year's returns. Lower it back down again.
But even if you're 85, we are in good place.
Right.
That was our target.
I would say that people who are really experts at pension funds, they don't shoot for 100% funding. That sounds like it should be the goal, but it never is the goal because no pension fund needs to be 100% funded on day one. And so we are in a very good position right now, and even after next year, I think we'll be in good shape.
I told the city manager he brought some good luck to the city.
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much.
I think more that's Mr. Gandhi who has brought the good luck.
Yes, you bring exceptional luck.
He does.
A couple things I just want to add. I know we're all ready to go, but without any collaboration with Mr. LaPlante, I do think it would be a good idea to have a brief city manager comment section before the consent calendar. I actually do think that maybe it could help answer some questions that people are bringing and provide some follow-up to issues the council has brought up. I would pledge to you they won't be long reports, they'll be short reports, but if that's okay with the council, we could move that up.
Yes.
couple of things I want to acknowledge. One is Mr. Trujillo brought up earlier the need to clean on the freeways, especially the ramps. We have been pushing that agenda, and Delfino especially has spent a lot of time working with people from the other agencies on this issue, as well as the riverbed issue. I don't know what else to call it, that Mr. Miller took me on a walk to see recently. And we think we have commitments from Caltrans and LA County to improve their performance in that regard. They certainly are giving us that indication, and in one case, they did do a cleanup. I know it's a squeaky wheel issue, and unless you stay on it, it'll stop. And so we're gonna just have to resolve ourselves to doing that, I'm afraid, forever. But Delfino did get some real progress on this. I was particularly disturbed when I saw that in the neighboring city, the riverbed was being cleaned by a crew of 4 LA County trucks and crews. And look, it obviously had been cleaned before. And yet in our part, it didn't look good at all. And we got a positive response to the questions to the county about doing that. So I think we're going to see some improvement there. I did want to mention that the Historic Preservation Ordinance is in final review. That's coming. I know the council's directed that previously. I haven't seen it yet, but I know the staff is working on the RV parking ordinance. That's working. We did have a meeting today. Maria Rivas and I had a meeting today with the newly elected Sister City officers, Sister City Association officers, and we met with them here at City Hall earlier today to talk to them about the future, how we can all work together and hopefully put some more energy into that new organization. I think their officers are virtually all new, if I'm not mistaken. Not new to the Sister City program, but new officers in the organization. Their 501c3 has been reestablished. So they're moving in the right direction, and hopefully we can keep going in that direction. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez asked earlier today to agendize a discussion on which city's rent stabilization? Bell Gardens. And I just wanted to get council direction that's something the council wants me to re-agendize. Is that the council's direction, that we want to have that item as an agenda discussion?
I think we've already discussed that.
I've heard the council say that in past meetings, which is why I'm asking.
Councilmember Trujillo mentioned 2 meetings ago, we've already had that discussion. Madam Mayor.
It was tabled, so I'm asking to bring it back. And I think I have the right to request to bring it back.
Does she need a second?
I don't think I think it's a city manager takes direction from the council as a whole. And so if the council directs me to bring back an agenda item, it's my job to do that. I'm not allowed to take direction from individual council members. That's
my only concern is we've already discussed that item at length, and we're not going to move forward because the votes aren't there. And
how do you know?
So let me go ahead, interim city attorney. I know we can't have a discussion about this right now, and it seems like this is little by little turning into a discussion. Do you recommend us maybe not spending staff time, but do you recommend just putting this on the agenda, and that way we can have a discussion without staff time being?
There's a middle of the road approach, because I think what the Mayor Pro Tem asked was for the ordinance to come back, and so maybe the council should first have a discussion on whether staff should prepare the ordinance.
No, I thought I was supposed to bring back the other city's ordinance.
I think the direction was to draft the ordinance.
That was not the direction
No,
that I was
that's not the
told.
direction.
It's to check on the ordinance of the Bell Gardens.
Yeah,
To bring the Bell Gardens ordinance for discussion.
because I couldn't draft
make sense.
I couldn't draft a new ordinance because I don't know what it is. There's 1,000 ways to do, as you know.
Yes,
You're an
I've
expert on
written-
this.
Yes.
I wouldn't know how to draft an ordinance yet because I haven't heard any discussion from the council ever on the subject of rent control. But you all have. And so I'm trying to find out, where does my city council want to go with this discussion? And it's a proper question for me to ask. Is that something the city council wants agendized or not? And I will do whatever direction I get. That's my job.
I feel like we've already been down this road and.
And I feel I wanted to give it a try again to see where we can go with this. I don't know why you're looking at him, to be honest with you, Formera. LaPlante was not even here when that conversation happened.
And I'm looking at our attorney.
Right, so if a majority of the council does not want to discuss it again, and then I don't believe the city manager has direction to put it on a future agenda.
Thank you.
Okay.
I will certainly get a copy of the Bell Gardens ordinance and make sure you all have it. I will certainly do that.
Thank you.
So that means that the rent control is not coming to the agenda?
I didn't get direction to put it on, no.
I wanted to have it in the agenda.
I have to take my direction from the city council. I'm not allowed to take direction from one member of a council. I need to take direction from the whole city council.
My understanding is that one of the council members can put anything in the agenda. Is that correct?
Maybe what we can do is, we can continue this discussion with, our city attorney. That way she can provide you with direction as to whether we can agendize it or not. Since I don't want to go on into a full-on discussion, because it's turning into a discussion of I feel like possibly an item that needs to be agendized, and I don't want to go down that route.
You know, the fact is, what the confusion here is that this city has not established how items get on the agenda.
That is correct. Yes.
And that's a normal thing that cities have, is a policy as to how items get on the agenda. It would be an acceptable policy for a city council to say that any council member can add any item to any agenda. That's very unusual, but it would be an acceptable policy if the council majority voted for that policy. Then I wouldn't have to ask. Then people could just call me on the middle of the week and say, put an item on the agenda. But that's a very unusual policy. Usually, there's some kind of process that a council goes through to put an item on. Some cities require that a council member ask the council first, do you want to have this item be on the agenda? And then the council votes yes or no, we want to put it on the agenda. That's a fairly common process. But it's very difficult for a city manager when you hear from some part of the council that you don't want to have something and somebody else does, and there's no policy that says one council member can put an item on the agenda. I don't have that policy to draw from in this city. So that's what I think you need to discuss, is how to put items on the agenda.
Why don't we put that on the agenda?
Yes.
Mark and I can both bring experience from other cities of what other cities do. There's a variety of policies and practices, and we can start there so that it's formalized.
Thank you, Lauren. That's great.
And I think we had actually started doing this a couple of years back, and it just never got anywhere, so I agree. So we're going to now adjourn the council meeting. The city council meeting is now adjourned in memory of Sebastian Valencia, co-owner of Bricks LA and son of Downey City employee Sandra Valencia, and the lives lost due to COVID-19. A moment of silence. Time is 9:46, meeting adjourned.